What is going on, everybody? It is episode 384 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. We have a full house once again today. Directly in front of me, would you introduce yourself, sir? That's you, buddy. Directly in front of you.
I'm Aiden Mattis. I'm from the Lore Lodge. I was pausing my screen. I'm here. I'm paying attention.
You're more calm than me.
I know.
You're more calm than me. I'm not a very calm person. I'm like, hey, you're not talking yet, bro.
I'm very excited to be here. I'm having a good time. I've been here all week, and it has been a fantastic week. I'm super psyched about today's conversation.
Excellent. And to my left, introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, I am Phil Labonte. I am the lead singer of All That Remains. I am an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary.
There you go. And to my right, introduce yourself, special guest.
Hello, everyone. I am director Paul Roland, but you might also know me as Paul Bois of Breitbart News.
There you go. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
He's also the director of a movie called Exemplum, which we watched last night, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff regarding your career. I want to talk to you about the film because I want to talk about. I was talking to somebody last night, and we were discussing my rating system with movies. People, see, he's finally getting a taste of the money guns. But we've been talking about my rating system because people in the chat tend to have a problem with how I rate movies. And I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm just going to start rating movies on my tone. Like, how excited do I sound? Like, I'm like, yeah, it was good. Like, is that good? Or is it, yeah, it was good? Like, we need like a tone, like somebody to be able to, who can distinguish different tones to be able to say, oh, that was a B tone, that was an A tone. But I really enjoyed it, so we're going to talk about that film.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We are going to talk about the fact that Nickmercs, Call of Duty has been banned, or I'm sorry, his skin was removed from
They
the
removed
game.
his skin.
Yeah, and that's because of,
physically.
We looked at that we looked at that article and we're like, if you didn't read that on Dexerto, you would have thought that meant something completely different, that they were just removing this guy's skin.
Anybody who's not a gamer is sitting here like, they did what?
I'm not sure, but I think that he might have issues with the FaZe Clan as well. They might be talking about removing him. I'm not positive. Yeah. This is something that I haven't looked deep into, but I saw someone tweeting about it. So, which that would bring the level of offensiveness, in my personal opinion, up a notch or two if he not only got taken out of the game, but also taken out of or removed from his team. One other thing that you might want to notice, or that we might want to talk about, the person that does Mara, that does the Mara skin, she was complaining right at Call of Duty on Twitter. I'll pull it up to send it to you. But she was all over it too. There's a lot of people that are very well known in the Call of Duty sphere, even if they're not professional gamers, that really don't like this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I saw Dr. Disrespect mentioned it as well.
Did he?
He brought something up about it. So
we're
going to talk about that, because the reason that this happened is over a rather benign tweet that is obviously being labeled, and since given a level of hatred, they're ascribing a level of hatred to this guy that's very much not there. It was a very benign tweet that they have since misrepresented. So we will discuss that. We're going to talk about
Did they really misrepresent it?
The people who, I think that the people calling it anti this or that are misrepresenting.
Are you sure? Maybe we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Elliot Page, because Elliot Page is back in the news, and I didn't cover this story the other day because the idea here is that prior to what they call gender affirming care surgery, Elliot Page was hearing voices and causing self-harm. I did not hear the self-harm part initially. I heard the hearing voices part, which I took to mean that could mean a couple of different things depending on your interpretation of that. And I didn't think it was a fair interpretation to assume that it meant that they were actually hearing voices in a mental sense. So we'll get into that because there was more to the story, so we will cover it. We are also going to talk about a band called Rivers of Nile, whose bassist, he has had to apologize. He's had to bend the knee for daring to like tweets that other people don't like. And that's unfortunately a problem because, as we know, the second you apologize, you have now given them all the ammunition they need. We're going to talk about that. And then I have a bonkers story here. One is an older story from January, and it mixes together with this other story is, why the hell are social media influencers all faking pancreatic cancer? And why pancreatic cancer out of all of them? I need to know. Multiple influencers have now done this, gotten caught. One is being prosecuted. The other one has since apologized. We will get into it.
You'd also think that if you're going to fake a cancer, you wouldn't fake the same cancer everybody else is faking. You'd go for something like, also something like curable, like skin cancer.
No, because you get less sympathy probably for something that's...
Yeah, but then everybody's expecting you to die. Pancreatic cancer is like a 10% survival rate.
I don't think they're thinking that far ahead.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's what you go with. If you want to talk about cancer and you want to lie, go with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The prognosis is generally very good for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
We like to give great advice here on Pop Culture
We're sitting here like,
Crisis.
guys, it's not, the problem is not that they did it, it's that they were stupid about doing it.
Absolutely.
Pick the wrong cancer. That's the problem.
That's
If you're going to commit fraud, do it right.
That's right. You got to pick a believable cancer.
All right, so we're going to get into it. If you guys are ready, we will just get right started.
Sure.
Aiden, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go.
I'm ready.
Good to go. All right, let's get started. So first things first, I have fantastic news. In 2 weeks where Robert De Niro and Al Pacino are both having babies, Bill Murray is getting on the action, though perhaps maybe to a less extent. Bill Murray is apparently dating Khalees. Yes, the lady who sings My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard.
Is that really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So Bill Murray, there was a story 6 months ago where Bill Murray was apparently getting handsy with Keke Palmer. I think that he just had a crush on her.
Maybe.
And he just didn't know how to share it.
Look, it's Bill Murray.
It's Bill
The
Murray.
man cannot do. I mean, he's gonna have to really. There's gonna need to be some significant evidence of Bill Murray doing something wrong for me to believe that Bill Murray has ever done anything wrong in his life. That man is phenomenal.
I think that's that's the weird, ooh, look at this guy. He's different. That's always come across as weird Hollywood propaganda to me. Oh, he just gets behind the bar and starts serving customers. Oh, he happens to have a movie coming out this week. He's so quirky. Let's write these articles about it.
But he does. He does have that 1-800 number. He doesn't have a regular agent. If you call his 1-800 number and pitch him an idea, and he listens to it, and if he likes it, apparently that's how he decides. So, I mean, maybe that is. There are stories that are hyped up from.
I do love What About Bob though.
I love so much.
I
stuff
love
he's
What
done.
About Bob.
Amazing. You couldn't. That's a movie that's a dark movie. If you actually look at it, have you ever seen the cuts? Have you ever seen the movie trailers where they take a movie trailer and they change the music and it completely changes the tone of
yes,
the film?
I have, yes.
They do that with
Shining was the first one to do that,
Yes.
I think, yes.
So people have cut together scenes of What About Bob with different music, and it's a completely different movie
I
if
could
you
see
put
that.
scarier music on there. The plot in general.
Have you seen the one where they put romantic music over the scene where Darth Vader is first revealed in Star Wars?
Yes.
One
Yes.
of my favorite ones.
Amazing. I love that stuff because that spoke to the creativity of the internet in the early days.
Oh, yeah.
With people with less resources could go through and make something amazing out of with very little to work with.
Oh yeah, no, this is nostalgic for me. No, I remember I was in high school. I think I was a senior at the time, and the Shining video that basically created The Shining like it was a family comedy that went viral. Although oh man, that's
That's
the
great
early
times.
days of the internet. Viral when viral was new.
Yep.
Now everybody's trying to go viral.
Oh, and we've got more of that today to talk about too.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so much virality, as they say, and a lot of it is very bad. That's a word. Virality is a word. Okay, let's talk about Netflix real quick. I'm going to quickly touch on this. So the password crackdown is in effect at Netflix. If you have a streaming service, Netflix is obviously cracking down on people sharing their passwords with other people in their house, and they're saying that it's driven up their signups to the highest it's been in 4 years. So apparently people just can't live without it. They're like, oh, I can't just mooch off my mom's account anymore. I've got to actually buy my own, which is weird because right now Netflix is the worst. I'm not talking content wise. Actually, the app itself is really, really bad right now. Meaning it's stopping and starting, and it's causing my smart TV to restart a bunch, and none of the other apps that I have are doing that. So, and we got a $20 super chat here. Remember, guys, if you do have a super chat, $20 and over, we will interrupt the discussion. We'll read it right there on the air. From Dave Gazuli says, Khalees is still making the milkshakes, but now they're mostly made with Ensure. You guys all rock, especially Phil. Boys. That's an Ensure milkshake. She could do that. Wait, what is the one that Jamie Lee
Ensure
Curtis
brings all the boys to the yard.
What is the one that Jamie Lee Curtis does? Activia?
Activia, yeah.
And they're like, it's better than prunes.
She could do it. My Activia brings all the boys to the yard once she's getting older. I think that's fine. That's fine. You were going to say?
Yes, I was going to say the reason why I think Netflix is going up, and kudos to them for cracking down on Pat because it's a smart business move. But the reason why I think Netflix is going to win the streaming wars and why they continue to win, it's very simple. One, they were the first one, but I'm very big on names and I'm very big on branding, and I don't think that you can beat the Netflix name and the Netflix brand. It's just too solid and too ingrained in people's minds, and that's going to be very, very difficult to beat. And that's why the other streaming platforms have not been able to do it.
To be fair, we did say that about Blockbuster.
That is true. That is true.
That was a total change.
That was a change.
Well,
that
that's
was
the
a
question:
change,
will Netflix die to other streaming, or will there be the next?
I think it would have to be a new
technology
and a new way of watching movies that overtakes it. But I don't think, in terms of streaming, I think they're the crown, they're the king, and everybody else is trying to follow suit. Yes,
I think Amazon wins because they have the backing of a gazillion-dollar company.
True.
And they have the business model that allows you to subscribe to other streaming services through their streaming service, which makes them money on both ends of the deal, right? You can subscribe to Paramount Plus, you can subscribe to Max, you can subscribe to all these streaming services through Amazon Prime so that you just have them all in one place.
Yes, Amazon does have the ability to drop $1 billion on bona fide crap.
Yes. Well, yes, they do.
What I remember saying back when Hulu, I think, first launched was I was sitting around with my friends. I was in high school.
Yeah.
When that first launched, I remember sitting around with my friends and everybody was like, "Oh, it's so cool that we've got like 2 or 3 streaming services and we can cable's gonna go away." And then of course I was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna explode into like 80 different streaming services, and then it's gonna evolve into you get a service where you pick which streaming services you want."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where Amazon is like running away with it, is ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
I think Amazon ends up, they just have too much infrastructure built up through Bezos to do so. They can drop the money on of these shows.
I think I don't have any particular objection to anything you guys said, but I do think that the product has to be good. Look what's happening with Twitch right now, and that's owned by Amazon, and it's being driven into the ground.
And everyone knows out of all of them, as much as I hate the way that Netflix is operating right now, out of all of the streaming services, Amazon Prime has the worst user interface out of all of them.
It's the worst.
It's the worst fast forward and rewind button. It's the most nonsensical controls. The only one that might be up there is the fact that Paramount Plus doesn't have like a next episode button, which is like the easiest thing to do. You're just like, if you want to go to the next episode, you have to physically go back in the menu and then go back to the sub menu where the show is.
Yeah, the Netflix interface is actually so good. I have a 10-year-old smart TV, and Netflix still works beautifully on it.
See, that's
Amazon Prime is dead. I can't go. I have to plug my laptop in for Amazon
See,
Prime.
that's the problem. I have it's not a 10-year-old smart TV, but it's older, but Netflix it's not working lately for me. I click on something, and then what immediately happens is it'll start playing and it'll start to lag, and when I hit back, it just doesn't work, and then it'll eventually go back like 10 seconds later, but I'm not waiting for that. So you you hit the button multiple times, it locks up, it freezes, and then it sends you back to the smart TV main menu. And it stopped me. I was trying to watch Fubar the other night because I'm like, I'll watch Arnie try to like be a geriatric action star. I'll try, but it just stopped working. So it just didn't. They need to fix that because that's a big problem. Like they don't understand how much you have to streamline user interface for people to stay engaged. There's a reason why TikTok is kind of emerged in the way it does. Because you don't have to do anything. It just literally feeds you garbage.
Yep.
Just on your phone, just scroll.
Not even scroll. It does it for you.
The other thing I'll say that I think Netflix and Hulu would do well to adopt is if I'm sitting there looking for a movie and it's not on Netflix, I get really irritated with Netflix. I go to Hulu, it's not on Hulu. If I'm looking for a movie and Amazon doesn't have it for me to stream for free, they have it for me to stream for $4.
Yeah.
I will absolutely stay on Amazon rather than closing Amazon, opening up Netflix, searching for it. Like,
what you do?
That my time is worth that $4.
I can save you the time. What you do is you go to IMDb.
Oh, you just look on it.
IMDb lists where everything is streaming on right there.
Yeah,
so
and
if you're looking, like even to the point where some of them are like certain seasons are on some platforms and certain ones are on others.
Yeah.
That's the thing is I don't need to do that step if I just go on Amazon.
Yeah, the dark horse in this is of course Tubi, because Tubi is collecting a lot of old libraries and putting them on there for free.
Yeah.
So he's right about going to IMDb. Check if it's on Tubi or if it's on Plex or something like. You'll find it for free easily.
Do you like Plex? Do you use Plex? Like
I use it for a few things, but Tubi is better.
Yeah.
I think. Yes.
Like I'm on a one-man battle against ads. I will pay for it to not have the ads in there for me. But like a lot of people I know love Tubi. They like Freevee too. There's a lot of stuff on Freevee now. But those fast services are building up large portfolios now. And the sad thing is, it's most of the shows that I love. It's the shows that were popular in the early 2000s that they don't have enough pedigree to be put onto a regular streaming service. But somebody like me, who's the limited audience for something like this, they don't want to give that to you on a streaming service because they don't think it draws viewers. So they'll put it on one with advertising. And unfortunately, I can't. It makes me miss the days when I used to be able to find them all on Netflix, when all of them seemed to be in the same place, when there wasn't 37 streaming services. So.
Fun fact about Tubi, I'm in a documentary for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not out yet. I can't say what it is.
My movie's on Tubi for free. Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about that very shortly. So, all right, let's talk about Shawn Mendes really quick, shall we? Because this is I want to know what your guys' takes are as artists on whether this was a bad take or not. So, Shawn Mendes has a new song that just came out, and it's called "What the Hell Are We Dying For?" And he claims it's about climate change. That's cap. I listened to the song.
It's not about climate change.
It's not about climate change. It's about a girl. Like all artists like that, like all pop artists do. They make artists about love interests, right? And he made this graphic for if you can look on the screen to the right there, he made he made a graphic for the song release that's using the skies that are orange in New York as like the art for it. And I think like maybe his thought was like, well, if I say it's about climate change, then this isn't in bad taste.
Yeah, we were sitting here talking about this before the show, and I was like, I feel like maybe it's just that his younger fans don't quite get it, and they're seeing this and they think he's taking advantage of something bad. And then I read the lyrics, and it's like the only thing that is remotely about climate change in this entire song is the first line where he says, "Smoke in the air, the city's burning down."
That does not make it about climate change.
The rest of it is clearly about a girl.
If he had actually genuinely saw the fires and he got inspired to write a song about it, I might say it's okay because he's expressing his arts through what he's experiencing and what other people are experiencing. I might say it's a little too soon to be promoting it, but at this point, it's just like you're clearly trying to get on the viral train here and attach your art to something that's happening. It rubs the wrong way.
The song just isn't about that.
Phil, have you listened to it?
No.
Because can you pull up like a little segment of it? We can't even play like 10 seconds?
Like even under that.
Really?
That Deftones song yesterday absolutely got us demonetized.
Really? Wow. Yeah. But what I was going to say is I listened to it and it sounds like it also wasn't recorded yesterday.
Yeah.
But
I just don't understand why this is a topic.
It's because there was people talking about it here, so his fans had a problem with it. That's what I thought was interesting.
They should
shut
up.
His fans should shut up.
Yes.
Okay.
That's stupid. It's totally stupid. Like, it's people looking for something to complain about. It really.
Well, that is true too, and this is why I would tell everybody just get off Twitter. Just get off Twitter because you'll just get pulled into getting outraged about something you shouldn't be outraged about.
I think this is definitely one that really needs just a blanket. Just go touch grass.
Yeah.
And get over it.
It's funny because somebody mentioned the old Demi Lovato one where she says, "I'm going in the studio because of the assault on American democracy."
Yes, there's that too.
So ridiculous. The idea that people are inspired because of the political climate nowadays about like the left-leaning narrative, it just makes me wonder exactly how deep into these topics they go for inspiration.
The artist?
The artist, yeah. Because if you're inspired because Trump is a Nazi, it's like, what do you know about Nazis?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know nothing at all. So this is all just you. I mean, I know that we live in an extremely narcissistic society now, but it really just is getting to the point where I don't think that most artists are actually creating art that's based on the reality that they experience. They're creating art based on what they're supposed to say.
It's almost like they go from CNN to Twitter, and there they go. They got their inspiration. Now they're going to write about it.
That was actually, I made that point. I said, that's why I think a lot of Hollywood writing suffers, right? So back in the day, there was a lot more research done. One of the examples I gave when I did the review for that movie, The Mother, which I've just been ripping for the last couple of weeks, there's a line in there where Omari Hardwick's character, he mentions bumstock bands, or he mentions bump stocks, and it's in the context of like a drug cartel. And it was very clearly something that writer saw on CNN that day,
had no idea.
Incorporated it into the script. It didn't fit in the language. It made no sense.
When what was I think it might have been Civil War, when in the very beginning when Captain America comes rolling in and he gets on the horn with I think it was Black Widow, but anyways, he mentions that they had AR-15s, and I'm like, they're fully auto, they're shooting machine guns, and he calls them AR-15s, and I'm just like, that was one of the first times I saw something and I was like, that is blatantly about shaping the minds of people that are watching. It's blatantly propaganda.
Absolutely.
But they've been using the term assault rifle for decades in movies and television. Even characters that would know better than to use the term use them.
To some extent, the term assault rifle is so it's so mealy mouthed and wormy and amorphous that I don't find, as much as there are people out there that are going to have a problem, I don't find an objection with the term assault rifle, because there are rifles that are designed for assaulting. Like, there are guns that are designed to make it easier to make an assault, to use in an assault. So I don't have such a problem with it. The actual problem is that people imply that citizens should not possess those rifles.
Also, I always like when they use that term, I just think of a writer that doesn't want to do the extra research to look up models that they want to use.
Sure.
Yes,
especially if
absolutely.
then the ability for the studio to then get a version of that is studio ready, that is studio safe, might be a problem. So if you write it into the script and then the studio can't get their hands on that model, there's going to be the people on IMFDB, like Internet Movie Firearms Database, that will rip it to shreds and say that's not accurate.
Absolutely. And even when I'm writing a script, if I'm putting any kind of weapon or object in somebody's hand, I want to make sure that I actually identify. It just makes for a better, more detailed script. So I'll say what kind of gun it is. I won't just say gun. I just like, that's boring, and anybody can just write that.
Doesn't it make the story more rich and in depth like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I learned that from actually reading James Cameron's scripts. He's very detailed with how he writes his scripts. He names the gun, names the type of car.
Tom Clancy was that way with his books. Did a lot of research into how he would, so everything came to life off the page when you'd read where the details came from in those. So so it is what it is. Fine, it is not a topic, Phil. I just thought it was funny that people were mad at him for it because of the wildfires. And it's also kind of interesting because it speaks to like how fast the news cycle is. Like they just never would have been able to get this out this fast beforehand. Now it's the day of. He's like, oh look, something tragic's happening. Let's monetize. I'm kidding about that, but I'm saying like they're able to do it very fast now. They don't have to wait a week for publishing to be done or print ads. They put it up right away.
After listening to it, I'm just super skeptical that it was recorded in one day. That's the part that's
the song was not about that.
What's bugging me as somebody who does write music, and I'm obviously not Shawn Mendes. I perform at local coffee houses, and I'm putting out an EP with a couple of my friends this summer. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, that song is way too produced to have been made in 8 hours.
Yeah,
like there's just no way. I mean, when did he say? And I'm just looking at it for myself now at this point.
I just like that they compared it to the Demi Lovato quote because that thing's going to live on in infamy forever. All right, let's talk about the French Connection because you brought this up earlier. You want to talk about this because we talk about censorship a lot here. We talk a lot about the fact that the corporatization of art is homogenizing everything, and all the great art that was once risky is being edited and repackaged in a safer manner. Wait, we got a $20 one from Disco Jensen. He says, never forget what Reagan took from us. Private citizens should be able to own machine guns and suppressors.
Yes, let's repeal the Hughes Amendment, get rid of it.
Repeal
Private
the entire
citizens
NFA.
should be allowed to own fully automatic machine guns. God,
I love the one. It's like how pro Second Amendment are you? And it's like it's got a tank in his front yard.
That's how pro Second Amendment I am.
I am the George Washington pro Second Amendment, which is it's not just your right to own it, it's your right to have one, and the government should supply it for you.
Yeah.
All right. So the French Connection. Let's talk about it because, like I said, we are in an age now where stuff is getting censored constantly because of the whims of a few angry people on Twitter and the general discourse in society, which seems to be utterly terrified of accepting that times used to be different, and that, you know, just because perspectives have shifted does not mean that we need to go back through and homogenize and sanitize everything that once was. Do you think this is something that's going to keep going, or do you think it's going to end up plateauing and we're going to get...
I do think it's going to keep going, and it's very unfortunate and sad, and as we talked about earlier, it just means that people are going to have to start buying physical media. I highly recommend people read my colleague John Nolte's articles about this at Breitbart News.
We love John Nolte here.
John Nolte's great.
We want John Nolte.
yeah.
I want him on this show.
No,
He's so funny.
No, he'd be great to have here. But so what's really offensive about what they did with the French Connection is that it happened in the dark of night, and we don't even know who did it. We don't know if it was Disney, because Disney acquired 20th Century Fox. We don't know if it was Disney who censored it, if any of these platforms censored it, but it was on Criterion Channel, which is a wonderful streaming service, and their brand is that they curate and they preserve classic cinema. And the fact that they had this scene that was censored, they cut out Popeye Doyle, Gene Hackman's character, saying the N-word and saying a slur about Italians, and it shows his character is multidimensional. It shows his character is simultaneously a hero, but also a very flawed individual, and the whole movie is about his obsession and the damage that he caused through his obsession. So by taking that out, it eliminates a facet of his character that informs us as an audience, and they're censoring that to basically correspond with modern audiences, and they didn't tell anyone about it. They didn't put out any warnings. They didn't put it, and they just thought that they could do it, and then finally some bloggers found out about it and blew the whistle on it, and it's not becoming as big of a story as it should be. This is really upsetting, and lovers of cinema should be up in arms about this.
Well, it's like repainting part of the Mona Lisa without telling anybody. Like that's I know that's hyperbolic. The Mona Lisa is obviously one of the best known works of all time, but like you are taking an artist's vision and you are changing it because you don't like it, and that's not that's going to take away from the story, and it's not acceptable.
Who did the actual editing?
We don't know at this point. We assume that it's Disney because they acquired 20th Century Fox.
Fair enough.
And Disney, takes a blowtorch to anything that's art these days.
Do you think part of this is because they're afraid because the character is technically the protagonist, right? So
yes, I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to say a protagonist who's a hero, well, he can't say the N-word. He can't be flawed like that. No.
Man,
Yes.
flawed? Oh, God. Flaws and heroes. I feel like I learned something about heroes and flaws in English class. There was a whole... What was it called? The hero's journey and the fatal flaw. Like,
I rewatched American Gangster recently, which is one of my favorite movies in the last couple of decades. And there's a racial slur that's used against Russell Crowe's character towards the end of the film. But the guy who says it is not a good, he's not a bad guy. He's not the main antagonist of the film, but he's not a good person, and it's used to kind of emphasize that wasn't cut out. I think I watched it on Peacock, and that one wasn't cut out. But I always look now, whenever I remember a movie that has something like that, I'm hesitant because I wonder if they're going to remove it. I wonder if they were more afraid to, or they're more okay with leaving that in there because that guy's not supposed to be portrayed in any type of positive light.
I don't know. It could just become a point where we're so sensitive. We have such a high sensitive population that they just start removing these scenes, and it would be horrible. I mean, I was thinking about a couple other classic movies where they could remove scenes. The scene in The Godfather where the mobster stands up and he says, we'll distribute drugs amongst the colored people. They're animals anyway, so let them lose their minds. Yeah. They could easily remove that scene. Just take it out of there. We don't want to upset certain people, and we'll take it out even though it's from a mobster. It's giving content. These are all bad people talking about their evil business that they do, but they may just remove it, there's so many. Mrs. Doubtfire may get heavily censored because it has a man dressing up as a woman, and his kids get freaked out when they find out that he's a man. There's so many. I mean, it just recently, The Hangover. There's a scene where they say the F word, like the gay slur, paging Doctor, and that could easily get censored. It could be taken out. Yeah, there's so much censorship that could be coming down the pike. And,
I just rewatched The Girl Next Door with Alicia Cuthbert the other night.
Yeah.
God!
Never could be made today.
No. Well,
and actually, like, surprisingly wholesome.
A very wholesome, considering it's about a guy who falls in love with a former porn star. Surprisingly wholesome. Movie. And what's funny about
the only thing surprising about that movie, she is so hot.
Yes,
no, it's nothing else surprising about it.
Not surprising that he fell in love with her.
But there very early in that movie, there's that that F slur that you're talking about there, and it's just done between high school students who are being mean to each other because it was 2004 and
F slur.
Yes, that one. Yeah,
yes.
not a good thing to say, but it's like
the South Park word.
yes,
Yeah.
And in this one, it's done between three characters who are all very much the protagonists of the film. I guess if as much as you have a protagonist in a romantic comedy, but it's kind of shocking to hear. Like you think about how different society is now from what it was just 20 years ago.
I think it's also important to recognize that like this isn't just an issue of people being like, oh, they removed the slur, that sucks. People don't like when you mess with older movies. Like when the special editions of Star Wars came out, everyone was like, why did you CGI the Death Star?
Nobody wanted to see Greedo shoot.
Exactly.
No, Greedo never got a shot off.
That's a great example is the Greedo shooting first is because Han shooting first was part of his character.
Greedo never shot. Greedo never got a chance. Han didn't give him the chance. Han smoked him because he knew Greedo was going to shoot.
And that's what I mean. That was part of Han's character. He's a savvy smuggler. He knows.
It fundamentally changes the story, which they should never,
absolutely
never
And
do.
kudos to Steven Spielberg for coming back and saying that he regrets editing E.T. that way, because that did change. Taking out the guns, that changes the nature of the whole story. It changes that that these government agents are chasing after these kids with guns. Like you replace them with walkie-talkies. Like that changes everything.
It completely defangs the movie, like in all of the points it's making.
Yep. It's and there's been a lot of examples of that. Here's some examples. Marvel did the same thing where they just removed violence. They just moved like a piece of rebar from going into someone's stomach from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and they edited that back. There have been a couple of scenes like that where things just get edited and they just expect people to not notice or not pay attention. But people who love stuff, they pay attention and they don't want to see their art messed with. They don't want to see any of that stuff changed. But what I think their logic is a lot of the time is they're like, look, we've been doing this on network television. We've been doing this on the TV versions of movies for years.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. People are now in an era where they don't have to worry about that. You should be able to watch your movie and not have to worry about watching a television edited version of it, because that's not what you pay for when you pay for these streaming services. And that was back when it was just to meet censor. FCC would that be the FCC?
Yeah,
So
there would just be there's a difference between, okay, we're going to censor this for a specific platform and distribution that we have to go through, but people can always pay for the legitimate version. That's always going to be available, and they snuck it. Like the whole point is they did this in the dark of night. They didn't even tell people that they were doing this. Like people are paying into Criterion because they believe that this is where real movies are preserved, and they did it without saying it, so it's very unfortunate.
It's also like extremely Orwellian. It's on the nose Orwellian. This is 1984. Like there's a lot of times when people go, "Oh my God, it's 19." No, this is literally half the plot of 1980. This was the guy's job. Was to rewrite things.
And my problem with it, another problem I have with it is it's going to start. People are going to start going kind of nuts. Where like they're going to be like, "I don't remember that." Like, and then nobody tells them that anything's been changed, and they're like, "Wait, I don't remember that being that way." And then you kind of second guess yourself: did I misread that? Did I not actually understand what I was watching there? Was this different before?
Yeah, or am I an immoral person because I want to have the original? Yeah. That's what some proponents of this would be saying. It's like, oh, what? You want to hear the N-word? You want to hear the N-word in a movie? What's wrong with it? It's like, no, I don't want to hear the N-word. It's that Friedkin, who created the French Connection, he clearly had a vision for what Popeye Doyle's character was. He's a flawed person who does some good things and does some bad things, and you as a viewer are supposed to watch that and come to a conclusion with that. That's what he was trying to do, and to take that away, to destroy that, is a horrible thing to do. Yeah.
It's destructive. Like you really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Calling it to point out that it's destroying that. It is destructive of the story, because human beings are complex, and half the time, at least, probably more than half the time, we don't know why we do the things we do. It's mostly we rationalize afterwards. We go through the motions of things. We do things that our emotions tell us to do, our guts tell us to do, and then we just come up with a story that fits, that we tell people or tell ourselves, because we really do like, people don't rationalize.
Whoa!
Already?
Let's go!
33 minutes in, we get the crisis party. You guys are great.
Wow.
Thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you. But yes, that's the thing. It's just so much rationalization, and to take away the bad things in characters makes characters less like human beings that are watching the show.
Yeah.
It also discourages newer artists from creating more complex characters.
Absolutely.
100%.
That's absolutely correct.
100%.
100%. Yeah, if you want to see, a movie that tries to create characters that correspond with our modern sensitivities, watch the Disney Star Wars. They're boring and awful. I mean, they're so horrible. Lucas's prequels are not good movies, but they're not good movies. But the Disney versions, which I would say are better produced, are horrific to watch. They're boring, and I would rather watch Lucas's prequels any day of the week.
Oh yeah.
John Lee has talked about this a little bit. We've entered an interesting time where the movies are so corporatized, so sanitized now that they could actually be technically good, but now mediocre stuff from like the 90s I'd rather watch.
Oh yeah,
because there's a kind of spirit to it that doesn't exist.
Literally.
In our movies now. Yeah.
Everything I love is from the 90s. Like I recently rewatched The Transporter. It's freaking awesome. The original Bournes from the early 2000s. So much more soul to those movies.
I'm not going to get too in depth on the Star Wars stuff here, but the prequels, at least they had a story that was
he
actually
understood.
Somewhat complex.
Yes.
There was nuance in it. The fact that there was political intrigue was kind of interesting, even though it was written in a way that younger people could understand. It wasn't super deep or super complex, but still it was more than the hero's journey.
Yes.
Also, guys, we got a $20
Lucas
super
was
chat.
at least a storyteller.
We got a $20 super chat from Tony Guevara. Says "Ree."
Okay.
I don't think I got all the E's, but I got most of the E's. Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
But
all right.
The good thing about the prequels is it was a different story, and it did really fill in the blanks of how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader, and it fit with the fact that all of Star Wars is about Anakin Skywalker and his family, and then they just ruined everything with the sequels.
Which is just astonishing to me because the excuse is like, oh, sorry, we didn't go into it with a coherent story. Like, you had the entire expanded universe. There was so much stuff that was considered canon for decades that you chose not to use. And this is why I don't feel bad about the directors striking or anything.
Kathleen Kennedy also said, we don't have the benefit of source material like Marvel does. And everyone's like, that's not true. You're just lying.
You may, in fact, have more source material than Marvel does.
I don't know about more, but like definitely a lot, a significant
Do
amount.
not underestimate how much Star Wars there is.
I mean, but Marvel's been around since.
That said, I do think that as a film, I think Revenge of the Sith is actually a good movie. I think that it's held back a little bit by the dialogue, but
and the CGI. The CGI does.
But that's just a
back,
time thing, like 2005.
All right. Now that we've talked about that, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, and let's talk about your career. So, you first of all, let's talk about what you do for a living. You're a writer?
Yes, I am a writer at Breitbart News. Yes.
So you're writing articles over there, and you're also a scriptwriter.
Yes. I have written 7 feature film screenplays. Yeah.
Can you give us a rundown, like out of all of those productions, which one do you think people, like if people were to go check one out now, which one would you go have and check out?
Well, there's only one that I've made, and that's.
But you've got the screenplays written for the other ones.
Yeah, I've got them written, and the one that is made is Exemplum, and I made that for $9,000, and you can watch that for free on Tubi.
It is,
I
guys.
have questions for you, by the way, about that after the show. Yeah. Like, I have questions about how you managed to pull that off.
I'm not the first one to do it.
Guys, I watched Exemplum yesterday, and I did watch Nefarious a couple months ago. I enjoyed Exemplum. I really enjoyed Nefarious. I really enjoyed Exemplum.
Oh, thank you.
Pacing wise, it is fantastic as far as the pacing of the film goes. Like you said, you worked very well within a very small budget, and I also thought the sound design was one of the strongest elements for this film, because that's one of those things. I'm deaf in one ear, so I have to pay very close attention when I'm listening to movies. I'm one of those people. I'm very pro closed caption. I know that's a big argument in the current generation with people, but I really enjoyed the sound design, because I feel like that and aspects of color grading are the things that when you watch Hollywood films, you don't notice it when it works, but you absolutely notice it when it doesn't.
Yes.
So choosing to go black and white on this film worked 110% to its advantage, and sound is one of the same things. When sound doesn't work, you notice it right away.
Absolutely.
And there was no point throughout this film where I felt like that was an issue. How did you come up with the concept for the script?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So, like I said, I did make the movie for $9,000. So when you're working at a budget that low, you have to basically construct the entire story around what you know you can get for free or relatively cheap. So I knew that I could get a Catholic church for free. I knew I could get
That's a bargain.
Yeah. No, I could get a few Catholic churches for free. I knew pastors in the area of Pasadena, and I knew I could get maybe a restaurant or a bar for free, and I could shoot guerrilla style on sidewalks and in people's apartments or houses. So I always had in the back of my mind a story about a priest that records his confessions. And I didn't know where that story was going to go, but it was in the back of my mind. So I developed it a little bit more, and so I came to the idea that this is a priest who records his confessions out of paranoia, and then he starts playing them back and becomes obsessed with them, and he starts formulating psychological profiles about people. And in that process, he gets this idea for an internet show called Exemplum. Now, Exemplums, which if you don't know, they were morality tales in the medieval era. Geoffrey Chaucer wrote one, famously, The Pardoner's Tale. They would always explore people's foibles, people's sins that lead to their downfalls, usually tragedies of some kind. So he's doing this internet show called Exemplum, and he's using his confessions that he's recorded as a base of inspiration for it, creating characters off of that. So it becomes big online, becomes big on social media, has a Twitter following, and his show is blowing up. And then through bureaucracy and corruption in the church, his show is completely wiped out, and his social media presence is silenced. And so he's going to be sent to this dilapidated parish in the middle of nowhere. And so he suffers a crisis of faith, and he decides to take one of those tape recordings and blackmail a wealthy parishioner with it. In the process, he gets linked up with a hacker. It becomes this cat and mouse game that spirals out of control. So it really, back to your question, you begin with a practical question. How can I pull a movie off that's interesting and intriguing for $9,000? So you have to construct your whole plot around that. So, I mean, there are whole story decisions in this movie that are decided upon based off of what I know I can actually do.
I think that's interesting because Hollywood now, they have so much money and they have so much infrastructure that it's the over-reliance on CGI. And it's like they've lost the art of being able to make more with less. One of the examples I always give is like, why do you use CGI blood when you could do blood squibs? Like, which look 110% more realistic and have more create a more visceral reaction in the audience if you see that. And you see the way that they do things now is they just have the money to not care about making it work on less money, which brings to, in my opinion, a more authentic form of storytelling.
Absolutely. And I think there's something metaphysical about it. You know, there's a very good scene in the movie Bottle Shock. It's not a great movie, but there is a very nice little scene where Bill Pullman's walking through his vineyard, and he talks about, you know, how the greatest gift you can give to your vineyards is your feet, and make your grapes struggle as they go up. And so I think when you watch an older film that's using practical effects, you know, on real locations, there is a kind of struggle that's in the film. You know, putting those things together on camera, putting the blood squib on camera, putting those, arranging them in such a way that you feel it as a viewer. It comes to you. And versus where it's on CGI, all on a soundstage, you don't feel that struggle. It's empty. It's corporatized. It's just people turning wheels.
It's Marvel suffers from this big time, like any type of big budget thing where a character's against a large scale green screen. Like a lot of the best CGI is the ones you don't notice. It's the stuff that you don't realize.
It's subtle. It's very subtle, yes.
The reason that you don't feel any connection there is because there is an inherent difference between two people being there at the same place and one person being there against a backdrop that really isn't there. There is actually one of the things I was pointing out, was like studio wind is very different. Just like fake fire. Fake fire never looks as real as it looked back when fire was actually used.
Yes.
Which was the most dangerous out of all of them to do. I think one of the best examples is like the old. There was a really bad episode in the first season of the X-Files where they had to do a fire episode, but it was beautiful because even if the episode's bad, it just looks, it's so real.
Yes.
What you're watching there. The other thing about the budget is One of the examples that I give is bottle episodes on television. A good writer and a good producer on a television show can make great art when they have to save money.
That's right.
The episode Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man from The X-Files was a bottle episode, and you can absolutely tell that the entire episode, William B. Davis, he's on a soundstage. He's on a soundstage, but the sound editing is fantastic. And the audio, the way the dialogue is portrayed through, he's listening to Mulder and the lone gunman have this discussion, and the way the crackle of the tape recorder, all of these things that don't cost a lot of money to do. They just take expertise, but that's what makes it work. And they don't think about that anymore because they just say, we've got money, we'll throw money at the problem.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And, to the comments about the sound editing, all of that is, a lot of that's just done in camera. I was very particular about, when we were on set, I was like, okay, put the boom mic up against the tape recorder. Let's get the snapping of it going in. Let's get the hearing of the
closing
spin.
the tape.
Absolutely. All of that. And, I was very, I did this all editing in my living room with my daughter, literally with my wife watching my daughter right next to me. And, I was very intent on going through each and every take and making sure the sound was not intrusive. It's only just one person holding a boom mic, but I would say maybe about 50% of the movie's dialogue is dialogue from another take that I would relay under, a lot of it is that kind of on-site ADR. And here's actually a very good trick for low-budget filmmakers. And I learned this from Christopher Nolan. I didn't invent it myself. If you are on a site and you're not able to get good sound, so record your takes and then do a just pure sound take, getting the boom mic as close as you can, and just do pure sound, get the actors to do it, the dialogue as close as they could, and then use that as your ADR rather than doing ADR. So it's very naturalized. Yeah.
They're standing. They're in a booth. They're not just in a booth.
They're not just in a
separated
booth.
by glass.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get it. You get the room, everything. So and then you get it in the editing bay. You just line up the sound bars. It's perfect.
Would that actually be less audio layers too, because you wouldn't have to go through and
Oh, and there's a lot of work that you have to do with ADR
Yeah.
to make it sound good. Like even professional films with ADR, like you can tell it's like, oh, that's ADR. Yeah, they're in a booth.
Or like the actors suspiciously, their head is turned as they say something, like as they're about to cut to the next scene. They're like, oh, they meant to get that piece of dialogue, or like some script editor was like, this doesn't make any sense. Somebody needs to say something here before they leave the room. I love that stuff.
We had a similar thing. We shot a documentary last summer, and it involved a little bit of screen acting, and we had to do like 6 or 7 takes for each scene, and that was like tiny because there were 3 of us. But like I was astounded. I'd never been on the camera side, so I didn't know. But I was sitting there like as we're doing these takes, I'm like, man, there's like 2 different angles per shot, and we're re-recording audio and everything. It was a lot more of a process than I understood it was, and it's given me a lot more respect for the people who can do it on a tiny budget.
$9,000 is a whole lot less than Kevin Smith spent to do Clerks. And most of that in the building that he worked at night.
Yeah, it's about the same amount of money. Because like I said, I'm not a trailblazer here. Robert Rodriguez made El Mariachi for $7,000 in the early '90s, and then Christopher Nolan made Following for about $6,000.
Yeah, but what is $7,000 in the '90s is like?
Yeah.
That's $45 million today.
so guys,
Not even joking, it probably is like 20,000.
Look, not kidding around. Like I was looking at some today. I was looking at some stuff for a gun, Red Dot Optics. They're like 30% more now than they were 2 or 3 years ago. I paid for an aim point like T1, which anybody that knows guns knows them. Like I paid like $750 for mine, and I bought them 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. Now they're over $1,000 each.
I am so glad I bought my EOTech when I did back in 2019.
Those are probably over $1,000 now too. So
I might sell it for that exact reason.
Let's watch the trailer. You good to watch
please.
the trailer? All right, so I'm going to put the trailer on here, guys. So if you are listening to the podcast, what you should do is you should go over to the YouTube channel right now and turn your actual monitor on so that you can see this. So let's go ahead and get this on screen and let's play it. Here we go. And then if you want to watch it, it's on that screen over there.
Oh, great. Are we still?
They can't. They can hear us, but they can't see us.
other any smart devices in the house.
Just my phone and computer.
Unplug your Wi-Fi and place your phone in the fridge. Do it now.
Brett.
What? What's up?
Oh.
Oh, is it?
The tape recording. Do you have it?
Yes.
Play it for me. Now.
May you rise above the chaos.
Guys, you should absolutely go and check this film out. You said it's on Tubi?
Yes, it's for free on Tubi, but I also agree with you about ads. So you do have to sit through ad breaks. So if you don't want to sit through ad breaks, I highly recommend you can just for $1.99 rent it on Vimeo on demand, or you can rent it on Google Play or YouTube Movies.
Excellent.
And for, $2 for a movie is nothing.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful streaming service. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Do you got further projects in the works?
Yes, I have actually been commissioned to write another film. I won't reveal the idea right now, but I'm working on another thing right now. Absolutely.
The other scripts that you have written, is that something you hope to one day be able to produce?
Absolutely,
those as well?
absolutely. They're higher budget scripts, but I want to return to them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Also, Andrea Mew in the chat says that her friend Vlad was on the movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yes.
right. Vlad. Oh, let me give a big shout out to Vlad here. Yes, Vlad was my cinematographer.
Yes, that's what she
Vlad
said.
was a wonderful part of this film. I would not have gotten this movie made without Vlad, so I want to say that live and publicly. Vlad's wonderful. He brought so much to this film because you got to understand I'm acting and directing in this movie, so there's only so much that I bring the shot ideas. But Vlad really brought his A game on the lighting so much. He had these great ideas for getting the chiaroscuro and doing the shadows. This movie would not have been done without Vlad. He was with me every step of the way. He was my right-hand man. I can't sing his praises enough. Absolutely.
And the lighting's fantastic in that because it works well with the black and white.
Absolutely.
The way the shadows mix is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, guys, as you know, like they were talking in the chat, like they're making fun of my rating systems, but I have been rather negative with movies lately, but this is an absolutely one. You should go check this one out this weekend. It's absolutely worth your time. So, do you have any other things that you got working on right now?
Well, yeah, I've been commissioned to write one, and I have the other ones that have already been written. But so right now it's pulling this out there, getting it promoted, getting fun people like yourselves to watch it, and I have got plenty more in me to bring to the world.
Excellent. Awesome. All right, guys. Shall we get started on the rest of the episode? Are we good? You good?
Let's go.
You good?
I'm good.
You good? Let's do this. All right. So Activision pulls FaZe Clan streamer Nickmercs' skin for Call of Duty following what they classify as anti-LGBTQ tweet. Aiden?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this last night, and my immediate reaction was, this is going to go horribly for Call of Duty, because I gotta say, I don't know if Call of Duty has looked at their player base lately, but if you have your prox chat on, it's a million times worse than anything Nickmercs has ever said on camera in his life at any point ever. And I think that if you look at what's happening here, basically Nickmercs comes out, and there was a brawl at a pride parade recently, and not a pride parade. There was what was it? It was a school board meeting, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure I got that right. Brawl at a school board meeting. And I believe it's the one that was actually between it was the Armenian Americans and the LGBT group, and they were all in a fight, and huge issue, right? Nick comes on and says they should leave little children alone. That's the real issue. And I think a lot of people are seeing this and going, oh, well, Nickmercs is implying that LGBTQ people are pedophiles. And I don't think that's what he's implying. I think that the conversation around LGBTQ material in schools, in culture, everywhere, has gotten to a point where one side is looking at all of this and saying, there's something weird going on here.
There's also a level of being initiated into the discussion that matters here. Like the language they use is intentionally vague to obfuscate what's going on from people who are not politically initiated or aware of what's going on within this world.
Yes.
The left is intentionally subversive.
Yeah.
So to look at this as if the all of the information is out in the open and stuff, that's not the case at all.
Yeah,
the left is intentionally subversive. So go on with what you were saying.
So Nick is probably on the side where he's seen these videos of child drag shows. He's seen these videos of family-friendly drag shows where you've got people actually, and this is not the vast majority, but it is a number of them. This does happen. And the common refrain is, oh, well, that doesn't actually happen. No, there are, if you go and you look at it, there is a significant number of videos of drag performances that do involve sexualized aspects.
Yeah.
And Nickmercs is looking at this and saying, all right, well, I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the fact that genderqueer depicts an explicit act, looking at this book is gay, talking about how to meet up with anonymous strangers to have homosexual relations. And here's the fact of the matter is, if two adults want to be gay, no problem. If an adult wants to dress up and drag and go perform for adults, fine. More power to you. Do what you want. But he's seeing it and going, all right, I'm seeing this being targeted at children. It's at a school. I've seen what's in these books. I'm concerned. And then you've got people on the other side of it who I had a conversation with somebody. I got into a bit of an argument in an Instagram section, in a comment section. He says, can we talk about this privately? I reach out. He's gay. He's got a daughter. She's in school. He and I are talking. I tell him what I'm seeing, the genderqueer stuff, the this book is gay stuff, and he's like, well, I haven't seen that. Can you send me the pictures? So I send him the pictures of the book, and his immediate opinion was, oh yeah, well, I wouldn't want my middle schooler to see this, but this might be okay for high school. So when you actually talk to people and you have the conversation, you say, I'm not comfortable with this specific thing, and you show them that specific thing, they often agree with you.
Absolutely.
The problem is that nobody's communicating because we're all too busy fighting in the middle.
It's not because we're all too busy fighting in the middle. It's like I said, it is intentionally subversive. This is by design. The reason that people should object to this really is because the left intends to subvert. They intend to lie. They intend to deceive you because they know that if people read things like Herbert Marcuse's Eros and Civilization, or Michel Foucault, or I think I don't remember the other gender studies person, but if you read their literature, their papers, there are justifications for intergenerational relationships, justification for pedophilia. There are drag performers that are also drag scholars, they call themselves. There's one by the name of Little Miss Hot Mess that say things like children are inherently kinky. There are people that are intending to violate children. Some because of the queer theory, some because they are just predators that attach themselves to the LGBT lobby because they believe they can get defended.
Yeah.
People talk about, the left loves to bring up the Catholic Church whenever anyone talks about.
We had a $20 one really quick.
Ooh.
Wyatt Derp says, seems odd to get incensed that people might suggest the LGBTQ crowd might be what Mary would deem a PDF file. I mean, it wasn't us who invented NAMBLA. Man, I haven't heard that name in a long
Yeah, me
time.
neither.
We're
Oh,
not
wow.
the
Nuts
ones
in
who
South
tried to
Park.
show adult material to elementary school kids.
He's not wrong. It's intentional. And to give the people on the left the benefit of the doubt, I understand that there's plenty of normies out there that really don't want to discriminate against gay people, and because I'm one of them. I'm not.
Of course not.
I'm not particularly religious. I'm an agnostic. I don't have a moral objection to gay people living their lives however they want. I don't have a problem with adults that want to go through body modification and live their lives as females if they're male, or whatever, live their lives as women. I have no problem with that. My problem is with the subversive political ideology that has attached itself to the LGBT lobby, right? It is not about whether or not someone is sleeping with a man or a woman, and it is not about whether or not someone wants to live their life as a woman if they're born a man. It is about teaching children that the sexual, well, teaching children sexual topics before they're ready is really the core of it.
Absolutely. And well, now we're seeing a spike in, and the left would say, well, this is because, the stigma has been removed. But, 20% of people identifying as LGBT, give me a break. That's because of new socialization. And so I was actually talking a little bit about this recently with my wife about, like, if, say in another 20 years, we go from, I think, people who just, it's like, they grow up and it's like, I'm gay, I feel this way, and, there's those people. And then, you have people who are socialized to, like, think of a certain ideology. What are those people going to be like? Are they going to be like militant? I don't know. Yeah.
People don't realize that there is a whole school of thought that gender needs to be abolished. Google gender abolitionism. Like, that's a real thing. Like, I think it's kind of crazy, but it's a real thing. It's a whole school of thought where they say, look, we shouldn't even have men and women, right? We shouldn't have man and woman. We should have, you should have, live your life however you want, but there shouldn't be the social categories of man and woman. I don't think that society can survive without man and woman.
Absolutely not.
I don't think that society would work.
An interesting way to look at this is, like, why is it that it's requiring us to talk to streamers from video games to bring these topics up when they should be discussed more openly amongst everyone? He responded to what was said, and he basically said, I didn't intend to insult anyone. He goes, I don't have any quarrel with people on the internet. And from what I understand, a lot of people have said, like, he's not a particularly controversial person.
He's really not
because this
controversial
should
at
not
all.
be a controversial perspective, but the obfuscation of the means and the ends of this means that it is controversial because it's designed. Look, when you look up here, when you watch the article, when you go look at it from IGN, they absolutely include what was shown from Call of Duty's Twitter, but they don't show what he actually said. So they say, following anti-LGBTQ plus tweet, but they don't include the actual tweet so that you can make up your mind. They do the same thing to J.K. Rowling every time they talk about the awful stuff that J.K. Rowling says. They never actually link to any of the things or show what was actually said because their argument falls apart when you actually talk to somebody.
Yeah, because normies see it, and then normies are like, wait a minute. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
They don't see why it's a problem, and the only people that are read into critical gender studies and stuff like that, only people that are read into these things, queer theory, only they know what the problem is, because the problem is that you're shedding a light on what is in queer theory.
So my problem with it is it's as bad as the what you would call the leftists are. The media that runs cover for them are 100 times worse.
Much worse.
That's like I said the other week. I said I don't care how much you hate journalists, you don't hate them enough. Most of the time,
I think
in the media.
Yeah, and to expand upon your point is, I do believe, I think a majority of gays and lesbians do not actually subscribe to this. I think most of them are just like, I just want to live my life.
Yep.
I live here with Joe or Beth, and that's my life. And then it's these elites, these minority elites that come in and be like, no, you have to get on board. You must get on board. And if they, and some of them are just like, oh, I guess you're right. Maybe I should. Or some are like, no, I don't want to. And then they get canceled by their community.
We got two $20 ones here. One from Wyatt Derp says there's a peaceful and accommodating solution. Give them the island of Madagascar to the Alphabet Soup Society and let them live in peace to build their own society. We will leave them alone and check on them in 200 years. That's his take on it. And then Nate Garland says, bad take, Phil. If you believe that adults can believe and change themselves due to their delusions, you water down the truth. It then trickles down to kids. It's all or nothing, dude.
No, I don't believe that's the case at all.
I think me and you are probably in the same case here, because it does feel like a lot of times whenever we cover this stuff, I get the instinct to say, look, it's all or nothing. I feel like that's not fair.
Our society has the tools to manage this. Like we do. Our society can take care of and treat trans people in a way where they're allowed to live their lives. Our society is completely capable of handling this.
Yep.
All you have to do is allow people to live their lives how they want and keep the ideologues out of schools.
And
keep the ideologues away from children. Keep the ideologues away from people that are
and out of these businesses.
Yes.
And I wanted to support something you said, which I think, you're on the libertarian spectrum as well as I am. And if there's one group of people,
spectrum is exactly how you want to call it.
If we're on the spectrum. Exactly.
Exactly.
So
Brave of you to admit your mental illness.
I'm on board.
Well, if there's one other group of people who get associated with pedophiles more than the LGBT community right now, aside from priests, which again is totally like the whole priest thing is taken so unbelievably out of context and makes it seem so much worse. But with it's public school faculty is considerably worse than priests, and everybody needs to know that. But what I was going to say is libertarians get associated with pedophilia all the time, not because libertarians are by and large pedophiles. Most libertarians I know actually believe in the death penalty for pedophilia. But if you look at who's getting associated, well, where are a group of people that want to live outside the bounds of the current law and morality going to run to? They're going to run to the libertarian community, because there they can say, they can advocate for things like abolishing the police, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's we like that. We like getting rid of public policing. Oh well, yeah, we should also, maybe we should take religion out of schools and things. Yeah, definitely, okay. And then it's and then also, maybe the age of consent being 18 is too high. Maybe we should lower it to 16. I can see an argument for that. And then 10 years down the road, all right, well, maybe we don't even need the age of consent. Maybe that's not necessary. And then it's been so long, those people are so deeply embedded into a movement that it's really hard to extract them, because they have all those same opinions as you on so many other things, but they've only ever held those opinions to be involved in a place where they can be accepted. And the same thing has happened with the LGBT community, where you've got people who are like, well, this is actually all about, I was born this way, I have these attractions, there's nothing I can do about it, I deserve acceptance. And the problem there is, and I think the reason that you're seeing it crop up in the LGBT community and kind of moving away from the libertarians, is libertarians have the non-aggression principle. Pedophilia violates the non-aggression principle. The LGBT community does not have the non-aggression principle because they're not a political party.
And they use the same argument for abortion, right? Like,
I think you probably have. There's probably substance there. The thing that I would push back is that there is all of the stuff that we're seeing, culture war stuff, really boils down to philosophy. Yeah. Right? And it is where it comes from. And there are philosophers on the left that write papers that justify all that stuff. So
I would absolutely agree on that note, that there are people with bad actors intentionally driving this. Yeah. I 100% agree.
Do you think it's time to start boycotting companies like this then? Does Call of Duty get boycotted?
I don't think that'll be effective. I think the reason that Bud Light was effective is because it was super easy to grab Coors Light right next to it.
Yeah.
I think Tim's on to that.
And unfortunately, Battlefield kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Recently.
Well, there's no competing. There's no casual game that plays like Call of Duty. I've been playing a lot of Destiny recently, which there aren't better game studios either. It's not like you're going to be like, well, I can play Overwatch.
You don't have the same amount of options as somebody who wants to boycott Bud Light.
Right now you have DICE, EA, and you have Ubisoft. Ubisoft is worse.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, whether it be Wizards of the Coast,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and Wizards
Magic.
They also do, but they also do. Or no, Blizzard does Overwatch.
Well, Blizzard's all part of Activision and the Infinity War.
But that's the thing. There isn't a place to go. It's not like you can say, I'm going to boycott Call of Duty and I'm going to play this. There's nowhere better. There's no place that's okay. There's no place that's going to be like, we're not involved in that kind of in the progressive social justice stuff. There isn't one. So I don't think boycotting Call of Duty is going to work. I don't think that it'll have much effect. Just because I don't think that
if you wanted to get them to do so, what would you suggest they play instead?
Well, that's the thing. Here's the fact of the matter is, I own Modern Warfare 2. I've already paid for it. It's how I interact with my friends who live all over the country. I'm going to keep playing Modern Warfare 2. I'm not going to spend any money. But I think that when it comes to oh boy,
hey, guys,
when it comes to finding another game, I mean, Counter-Strike 2 is coming out.
Let's go.
Like, you've got the Tom Clancy games, but Phil's right. There's nothing in gaming outside of Battlefield that even comes close to being what Call of Duty is. And Battlefield and Call of Duty are, they're taken from each other at this point. And if you look at Battlefield, they got raked over the coals for including somebody who was disabled in one of the games, who had like a prosthetic arm, who would never be on the front lines of a war.
Well, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is like they were just like, oh, we're gonna put this person that's actually disabled and has a pink hair. No, that was in Call of Duty, where they had like all the people that all the characters were like so out of place or something.
We got a $20 super
Battlefield
chat.
2042 did it.
We got a $20 super. I remember that. We got a $20 super chat from Wyatt Derp. Says, "Get rid of public police, and people are at the mercy of private security who lack the same oversight. The Pinkerton Detective Agency was used as a mercenary force in West Virginia to bully minors and their families."
I don't know if that's a good idea, Wyatt.
I also that was funny because when we covered Elliot Page earlier this week, there was the story about Elliot Page facing the slurs being said to them in public, and said, "Well, I can afford." They did a gay bash, as they said, and it said Elliot Page can afford private security. The average everyday American can't do that,
not even remotely.
So, and one more $20 super chat from Braymont says, "Bring back Medal of Honor."
Yeah, Medal of Honor was a good game back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
I mean,
Nostalgic.
And like I said, you can boycott Bud Light. Coors Light is right there.
Yeah.
You can boycott Target. Walmart is still there. Even Amazon can deliver most of your stuff other than food. I mean, they have food delivery too, but you've got a lot of options there. It might require you to be a little bit more steadfast and go find something and learn to go without. If you believe in this and you believe in the boycott of these products, and I don't come down very often one way or the other on boycotts, because the Bud Light seems to be the example of the most effective recently out of all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of always black-pilled in this realm, because I'm always just like, what does it really matter? It doesn't seem like anything really changes. But I understand that I'm looking at it in a wider perspective than you need to on something like this. You really need to get down into the nitty gritty of stock price, of how much is actually changing on the ground level, if you want to see where that change comes from. But with video games, it's very, very different. And for somebody like this, for such a bland, mediocre, uncontroversial take, it's just depressing.
And when it comes to that being uncontroversial, it really is as simple as all of this is on the internet and everybody is assuming the worst of everyone they interact with. In reality, you sit 80% of people down and you say, here's what books are in schools. We don't want these books in schools. And you show them the books. Most of the time, they're going to be like, you know what? I agree with you. This is not appropriate for my 12-year-old. And then suddenly, it's not about gay people. It's not about trans people. It's literally just about this.
Yeah, but look at what set this whole thing off. Armenian parents fighting with Antifa outside of a school board meeting because they had an issue with the books that were going to be put into the school. This isn't about banning books, which is one thing that the left is going to say. It's not about banning books. It's literally about curation. It's about what is and is not allowed in the library or in the school. And the parents have every right to say these books should not be taught. These books should not be put in front of our kids. I don't at any point I can't understand why this is acceptable to parents when they're talking about okay, we're going to teach kids about anal sex.
Because they're not paying attention. In my opinion,
that's what I'm trying to say. Is if you sit them down, you say, "Here's the material," they immediately the light bulb goes on and they get it.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to get people to look at that. Like some kid was complaining on Twitter about what I said, and he said, "Well, this isn't happening." I was like, "Read Eros and Civilization by Herbert Marcuse and come back to me." And then his reply was, "I'm not gonna." So it's like, okay, so you'll jump in and say this is, and with you'll assert that you know that this is about the context, and then when I'll say, hey, maybe this book will give you more information about the context where this guy actually defends pedophilia and talks about things that are displayed in queer theory and stuff, or talked about in queer theory and stuff. And the problem and the response is, I refuse to find out any information. It's not like I'm saying, hey, read some right-winger stuff. Herbert Marcuse is literally as far left as you get. So I'm not trying to misinform people. I'm like, go get the information that has upset people. Go find it yourself. Here's one of the guys where you can find it. No, I don't want to. Because they want to be ignorant.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to super chats. You can scroll down there.
Yeah, I found him. That was my big issue. I was like, I can't find him, and I didn't know how to tell you. All right. Andrew Jacobs said, great job co-hosting all week, Aiden. Hi, Brett. Thank you, Andrew.
Hello, Aiden. I meant hello, Andrew.
I know. I was like, hi. 1,000 Foot Deep End said, missing live again, stopping by to say, Aiden, thanks for sitting in for Mary. Thank you. Been a great week of shows, and I hope you'll be back soon. I would love to come back. Phil, thanks for helping out too. Brett, good shows as always.
Thank you. Phil?
Right. Phil,
say thank you.
Thank you.
they love you, Phil.
There you go.
I looked up at the screen.
He gave the
I
nod.
winked and clicked.
Oh, there
He
you
gave
go.
the nod, yeah.
Nonverbals.
Peter Leo said, can't make live today. Stay handsome, brothers.
Ah, there you
I
go.
will. Perturbed Alpaca said, I love this stuff. I want more groomer companies to out themselves.
Look, like that's the thing, right? The problem with the Call of Duty one is, like you said, there aren't a lot of options otherwise, and that's maybe that's a sign that more people need to be looking into how they produce games. Granted, video game production is insanely expensive.
Yeah.
and
It's
hard
just ironic
do.
to me that it's Call of Duty of all things. Like, I have never heard the N-word more in my life than I have in a Call of Duty lobby.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's still like it's at least once or twice a night.
It's called the gamer word for a reason.
Back in 2011, 2010. Oh my God.
Yep. Let's do one
sure.
more, and then we'll move on from Mox.
We have, don't get to watch live often, but I listen every day at work. Love the show as always. And Phil, I actually got into your music from seeing you here.
Cheers.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Also, I hope that today's episode got up in time. Last night, I was. It was such a late night getting done with all my work. I uploaded the whole episode to Spotify.
Nice.
And then put the ads in, everything, and just never hit publish. Just sat there overnight. I got up in the morning and woke up like crap and had to run and go do it. So I hope you got to see it at work today, my friends. All right. Let us get started on topic number 2, shall we? Let's talk about Ellen Page. In this case, Elliot Page, but the Babylon Bee refers to Elliot as Ellen. You can take with that what you will, what they mean by that. It says, Ellen Page was violently punching herself in the face and hearing voices in her head. A few weeks later, a doctor approved her surgery. Look, this is a misrepresentation from like a lot of the articles that were talking about it, which conveniently left that part out.
Yeah, they did.
Which is why I didn't initially cover it. I didn't want to talk about it. I'm like, look, I have a hard time with this stuff anyways, because like we're talking this whole topic before about how this is affecting kids, right? This is a grown adult. It's not really my business what this person does with their time or to their body legally. I don't know if I have an opinion one way or the other. I do know that I don't want it being pushed ideologically on children, but is it really my right to say what Elliot or Ellen Page can or can't do with their body? It is not my position to say so, but it does speak to the issues of like, look, you were clearly in a very, very bad place, and the media running cover and not allowing these articles to come out in a more honest fashion waters down just how serious of an issue a lot of this stuff is, an issue that Hollywood is pushing in a very, very positive light, and that to me is extremely dishonest.
If I can't tell how much of this is symbolic language, like did she actually hear a voice? Because if so,
that's why I didn't
that's a
want to talk about
psychiatrist
it.
appointment.
That's
Yeah,
why I
but if
didn't
we
want to
talk about
initially.
if we talk about the other thing though, you know, one night she tried to knock herself out, took her knuckles to her face, and pounded over and over until bruises formed. That is not something that somebody who is in a good mental place is doing. Yeah. And I'm not saying that at no point should Ellen/Elliot Page ever been allowed to transition by a doctor, because after all, you are an adult. It is your choice what you do with your body. But that should have been a stopping point where they said, all right, we need to actually get you into some therapy and get you to a point where you are stable as a, you know, in terms of your depression, anxiety, whatever you're dealing with, before we start looking into something as radical as cutting off body parts to help you feel like you're more comfortable in who you are. So that's what worries me, is like this, it shouldn't have been a few weeks here. Therapy is something that when you're doing, you know, weeks, at least probably months.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I'm not the guy that's going to be like adults shouldn't be like allowed to do this or whatever. But at the same time, like this is the same. This is like lobotomies. This is not fixing anyone. I don't care what anyone says. It's not fixing anyone. There may be people that tell you they feel better. I'm sure that there are going to be people that are going to say that until the day they die. And you know they got, you know, gender reassignment surgery. They got the body modification, and they feel better. And I'm sure that there's going to be some, but it's not actually fixing the problem.
No.
I don't believe it for
And the
one
problem
second.
is that it's coming from Hollywood and it's coming from the
Well-
media. That these are very, very influential people
This
that
is-
can have a lot of influence on the younger generation.
You're right, but this is far closer to like medical Lysenkoism. Right? Lysenko was a guy in the Soviet Union that had a whole lot of influence on the science in the Soviet Union, and he was asserting that plants were communist. He was asserting that Darwin was wrong. Right? He said no, Darwin is fascist. The whole idea that organisms have to compete is wrong. And he said, what we need to do is we need to plant like plants together, and they are going to cooperate, and we'll have better crops. What they had was famine, and millions of people died. And that's what happens when you have people that refuse to acknowledge reality, and they want to assert that reality is different from what it actually is. And it looks like we're in a position again where ideology has affected even people in medicine. And you add to that the incentive from pharmaceutical companies to keep people on medication their whole lives, and you end up with tons and tons of people misdiagnosed with going through procedures that modify their body and change their body and put them on and mean that they'll be on drugs for the rest of their lives. The incentives to do this are all bad.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting, because people have always attacked religion, for polluting science and putting false ideologies into scientific practice. But now it's the exact opposite. Now it's left-wing politics that are putting false ideologies into science, and it's causing all kinds of
it's another
evil-
religion.
But also
so,
think
right.
of it like this. Look, this is Hollywood puts out movies and television shows that celebrate these causes or celebrate this ideology. And that's one thing if you're being honest about just what happens on the negative end of the spectrum as well. But they don't do that. It's always portrayed in a way in which you're supposed to not ask questions and just affirm whatever you see. And that's where I have a problem. I don't think it grows to be the social contagion that it is without the backing of both Hollywood, the mainstream media, which are both backed by the pharmaceutical companies, right?
Yes.
So they dump tons of money into these projects. And if you want to worry about something, worry about whether it's TikTok influencers that are finding their way into your kid's bedroom through their phone, whether it's the cartoons that Disney is putting out that they're watching. All of this stuff is pushed onto kids at an age when they don't have the capacity to really understand how serious of an issue these things are. And it's extremely downplayed by people that are either ideologically inclined in Hollywood or are just out to make a profit, i.e. the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. The one positive thing I would at least say about Hollywood, they always say, go woke, go broke. That actually very does specifically apply to Hollywood, more so than I would say any other industry. Because if you go woke in Hollywood, go woke with your product, you're affecting the product that you're giving to people. You're creating a woke show or a woke movie. Everybody's Indiana Jones is going to bomb because it's gone woke. So you're infecting.
Do you think that's true? Do you think it's going to bomb?
I think it is. It's tracking for a low.
It's like 60 million
60
opening
million.
for an Indiana Jones movie.
Absolutely. So if you infect the product that you sell to people and then you try and sell it and then nobody buys it, and so that actually Hollywood does get some kind of hit from that. Now, unfortunately, they're subsidized so much by cable subscription fees, so that's why you should all cut your cord. But that's the one positive about Hollywood, is that they can only do it for so long. Other corporations have a little bit more cushion to help them, but Hollywood can't do it forever.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I look at Disney, which just cut $4 billion worth of staff and budget, right? Like, they're looking to cut $7 billion total. Warner Brothers, after being bought out for like the third time in 10 years, has been doing so. And I remember reading earlier, like, Warner Brothers has a higher ESG index than Disney.
Wow.
Because most of that is behind the scenes, right? It's got more to do with Warner Brothers isn't just what you see on the screen. It's who they hire in their boardrooms. It's who they hire to do their marketing. There's a lot of ways that score is incorporated, which is why I don't like to talk about it because you could talk to 15 people about environmental social governance and you could get 15 different answers about how it works based on industry you're talking about, person you're talking to, and the product that company sells, right? So I don't always like to use that as some type of gauge as to why this is happening. I think it's a fair argument because the idea is like, would it go this far? Would they still be doing this if there wasn't so clearly a backlash against it? Why would they still be pushing these things? I get that argument, but outside of seeing that concrete proof that that's what's bolstering these companies, that BlackRock stepped in and says, look, we'll give you funding or we will buy off some of your debt, even though maybe they wouldn't if they didn't have that score. I'm hesitant with that because I'm not a finance guy. I just feel like that becomes a catch-all term that people start to use for these companies.
I think it just could be, what we saw at Disney. Bob Chapek. I think he was thinking to himself, I don't really want to do this.
No, he didn't want to do that.
He didn't want to do it, but he has a tiny minority of people within his company who are so they really believe this, and he's like, well, what am I going to do? I guess I have to follow. I mean, I know people who worked at Disney where they would literally go on Zoom calls with upper management and they would start crying in front of their employees about the Florida legislation.
Fire.
And that's why it's like exactly like who is crying in front of their employees about some political legislation that has nothing to do with what you're supposed to do as a company.
This is the kind of stuff.
Religion. Yeah, exactly.
Fired.
I don't know. It's like we talked about earlier. Look, this is not the CEOs. What you need to worry about is the middle management, the people who get hired and then eventually get hiring privileges and then bring in people that are ideologically inclined in the same direction that they are, right? So you don't need to worry about the CEO. The CEO is going to do what the CEO is going to do. It's the dude in middle management. It's HR. It's all of it's the human resources department. It's your DEI. It's this and that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, HR was the entry point, right? Like so HR is how the left has gotten into businesses. You get someone or a couple people in HR that are friendly, that have similar opinions, and then all it takes is a couple people to complain about some people that work there, and then the business is like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whether it be, this person made a sexist remark, this person made a racist remark, this person made a whatever insensitive remark, and then the company's response is, we need to make sure that we don't get sued. And that is where the weakness is, because we have such a litigious society. People get into a business and they say, well, we're going to sue you if you don't do this, and the company's like, well, if we get sued and it costs us $10 million to settle, or we can pay $1 million to what's her name, white fragility lady, Robin DiAngelo, to come in and do DEI training for everybody, and it'll cost us $1 million for the year, but it's better than that $10 million lawsuit. So we'll go ahead and we'll hire these people, come in, and that will insulate us. Because this is what Al Sharpton used to do. If someone had accused someone of racism, Al Sharpton would be like, "Oh, I'll come and I'll do a talk, but you got to give to this organization and give to this organization." It's just hustle. It's just a hustle, and that's exactly what the left does. They get into your business through your HR. Or this is one of the ways they get into a business through HR. Then they threaten legal action for someone making the wrong face or looking at someone wrong or whatever. And then the business jumps because the last thing they want is to go to court.
Remember when we used to say that all those kids getting like super progressive in college would one day hit the wall because they're like, oh man, they're going to hit the real world.
So
and
dumb.
It's not what ended up happening. They ended up physically changing the real world with their beliefs. And that's what everybody should be worried about.
They haven't changed the real world. They changed the way that people behave in the world. But they haven't changed reality.
That is still changing the real world. They're changing how it's perceived by people. So I do believe that they are fundamentally changing the world.
I think a lot of it really is the internet and the fact that politics is pop culture now too. Because if you look at it, it used to be
this discussion, dude. Even this, we're talking about this, and like, it is like it's like I don't want to a lot of the time, but I understand the importance of it. That it does matter, and that these things need to have a light shined on them, lest these companies just go forth without any pushback and keep doing it. And it's annoying, but it's relevant and it matters.
Well, and what I was going to say is that it's gotten to the point where, 20 years ago, you graduated college, you went back to your hometown or you moved for work, whatever. You got there, you didn't really have the internet. You got whatever was on cable that night, and that was about it. Now, I mean, you had the internet. It existed, obviously, but you were playing RuneScape, not, scrolling
Let's
through
go.
TikTok to get your politics.
Yeah.
So I actually wasn't allowed to play RuneScape as a child because, it was a scary game. But yeah, so it was too violent. But you look at what's happened now. You finish college, you get out, your phone is constantly still feeding you progressive propaganda.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, I've talked to my friends who went to college they were liberal in high school. I got more liberal in college and got out of college and continued getting more liberal. And I've kind of hit a point where I've been like, all right, this is probably about as liberal as I'm getting. But they got out, and I've had conversations like one that I had about the Don't Say Gay bill, quote unquote. And the thing was, I was talking to my friend. She and I have known each other since 10th grade, I think. This was last summer. She and I are sitting there. She knows I'm intelligent, I'm kind, I'm caring. She knows me as a person. And she was surprised that I supported that bill. Yeah. And when I explained why, when I was like, there's nothing in it that says don't say gay, it's literally just you can't talk about sex and sexuality in class. You cannot lead a discussion. Kids are still allowed to talk about it. Teachers are still allowed to answer questions. I was telling her what's in the bill. You just can't put sexuality and sex into the curriculum until after 3rd grade. And I could see the gears turning. She still, in that moment, didn't change her opinion, but I could see the gears turning, that she understood that what was actually going on here is she did not understand the opposing argument. She thought it was just hatred. She didn't get that there was actually something going on that parents in Florida had a problem with.
That is so emblematic of the problem that I kind of outlined earlier. People don't know. They assume that it's just hatred. People don't know that there's objectionable content that's actually being taught to kids. They think that it's just, they look at a pride flag, they look at a rainbow flag, and then they just hate on gay people. And it's like, that's not the case.
You know what I think it is? I think 20 years ago, when I watch old movies and television shows and I see the way that people who had opposing views were kind of portrayed, I think there was kind of a base level of assumption that even if you disagreed with someone 20 years ago, that didn't inherently make them a bad person, and that's gone now. Like, now we've turned everything into a cartoonish, childlike depiction of evil. And I think both sides do it to an extent, though. I
agree with that.
I think that the people who would be right-leaning are better at understanding the arguments of people on the left than they are of understanding the arguments of people on the right. But I think that both sides make cartoonish evil villains out of each other.
Or they both monetize off outrage porn.
Exactly. And that's just what it is. And I would like to see that change over time. I don't have a problem with Elliot Page doing what Elliot Page did to themselves, but I do have a problem with Hollywood and the medical industrial complex working together to push these as things to aspire to, rather than something that just happens to simply be what it is and going forward from there as an adult.
I'm going to say something a little weird, which is that I think COVID paved the way for this because we all stopped questioning. Well, not we, but a lot of people stopped questioning pharmaceutical companies.
Medical establishment.
Do you remember 5 years ago that the left was hugely anti-pharma?
Oh
yeah.
COVID happens.
Strange times, my friend.
They
COVID
still
happens. Pharma faces no resistance from the left, and they start selling this shit.
They are still actively, oddly enough, very anti-medical industry because they believe that all healthcare should just be free and magic and magic. So it's a weird type of conundrum where they're like, yes, your healthcare should somehow both be free, but also we need Pfizer to save us from ourselves. It's a weird.
Well, if you told me 20 years ago that the left would be on the side of big pharma, big business, big military, the intelligence complex, I would have looked at you and said, you're crazy.
Problem is, I don't think that the average person understands. Like, I really do believe that the average person who is not politically or sociopolitically initiated thinks of the Republican as the party of rich, of the medical and military industrial complex full of rich people, when we understand now that that's not really, not in the same case. At least it's splintered off into multiple factions that represent a varying group of interests. But the people that don't understand that don't care, or they don't care to know, and their views are constantly reinforced by Disney, by ABC, by NBC, by CNN, by all of these networks, and that's why it comes back to things like Disney or things like Warner Brothers, which put out movies which reinforce these beliefs from the age of children. long before they care about this stuff. That's why they want it put in the media, because it grooms them it very much grooms them to start believing it early on so that they don't question it from the beginning.
Good.
No.
The whole point of trying to get to children is to teach children it's to interrupt the reproduction of liberal children. So the idea is that media and schools and the establishment make liberals, right? Like, you go to school, you learn how to be an American, you learn that you go to work, you get a job, whatever. That's how you be an American. Socialists want to interrupt that reproduction of American society. They want to teach kids that a liberal society is a bad society, because a liberal society makes room for bad ideas. It makes room for bad people. So if they can interrupt that.
We got a $20 super chat from Midwest Finest. Says, I believe most people are just used to watching Jon Stewart on The Daily Show, laughing at conservatives, so it's easy pressure and the ideology of the crowd, no matter how bonkers, dangerous, or destructive the ideas are.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think
a very
Jon
good point.
Stewart,
Jon Stewart, he taught people how to be mean-spirited towards your opponents. Absolutely.
Not only that, Jon Stewart did a significant disservice to the United States, because he made it so that way an entire generation had no ability to take conservatives seriously. And there are ample good ideas that come from the conservatives. Not every conservative is Marjorie Taylor Greene. People can have their opinions about her or whatever. She's easy to make fun of, and that's the only thing I'm saying.
A good number of them would make themselves very easy to make fun of.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a problem. But he was so mean-spirited about it, and he made it extreme. Like, if you were a Republican or you were a conservative, you were immediately, Jon Stewart's going to laugh at you.
Yeah. We get a $20 super chat from Dave Gazzoli. Says, when people like Hollywood have an external focus, I think it means focus of identity. Locus. Okay.
Locus.
An external locus of identity, they will more likely be more susceptible to external pressure and the ideology of the crowd, no matter how bonkers, dangerous, or destructive the ideas are.
That's true. There's definitely a tendency on the left, I've noticed, to identify.
Hold on, I have to reread the first one. The super chats went at the same time, so I actually transposed half of one of these super chats on the other because they came in at the same time. This is from Midwest Finest. Says, I believe most people are just used to watching Jon Stewart on The Daily Show, laughing at conservatives, so it was easy to not believe the terrible things the left do and assume the boy cried wolf. Yeah. So that's what he said. So I actually read the second part of the second super chat, and it became like a transformer. And
it kind of made sense. So
it did still make sense. But yeah.
But yeah,
and I think both of those points are right.
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at is I just have to agree with what was already said, I guess.
And the other thing is, look, the back in the 90s, when there was still a Christian conservative majority, Mary would argue with us about whether that was still a thing at the time. I said, yes, waning. It was still. At the very least, you had pushback from the financial departments of these companies to appeal to everyday American households. When back then, the reason why the comedy worked, the reason why the media worked, is because a lot of the liberal ideas that were being portrayed at that time were subversive against the American culture. Far less so than they are now. But now they're trying to portray those same ideas as if they're subversive. They're no longer subversive.
Yeah, they're vanguards for power, court gestures for power.
Yes,
that's right.
You are now the establishment.
Yeah, and there was also a good-natured aspect to the 1990s. Like, when Dana Carvey would do George H.W. Bush, it's like, we understand that it's kind of this laughing with, and they, SNL would do the same thing to Bill Clinton with Daryl Hammond. And now it's like, okay, it's all Republicans, all Trump. There's no poking fun. There's no sense of trying to create this commonality among us. It's just,
Well, it's the example I always give, because they do the same thing for celebrities beyond the politics. Do you remember when, when they used to do mean tweets on the Late Show? That was good, because what it did is it forced actors to touch grass and be like, look, people can laugh at you. And my problem with it was, originally they would say the mean tweet and then they would make a sad face and everybody laughs because look at the rich guy who gets laughed at by the nobody on the internet. When they started letting the actors push back on the person, you're just bullying somebody. Like, it made no sense, right? And it's still comedy. You should still be allowed to do it. They have the problem with punching down. They believe you should always only punch up. But oddly enough, they have no problem,
with punching down at you.
They have no problem punching down if they're punching down on everyday American
they
people.
don't care
happened to
about
me.
punching down.
It happened on Twitter yesterday. An account with 35,000 followers was like started calling me a pedophile out of nowhere, and I'm like, I literally responded to it. I was like, I have said multiple times on this Twitter feed that pedophiles should be executed with a wood chipper.
Some guy said to me today, like, they had a problem with me talking about this stuff, and he said, what tweets was he liking? My reply was, I got a picture of a dog's butthole, and I tweeted at him. I said this. That's the kind of reply you give to those people. If they're coming at you and they're accusing you of, pedophile, send them a picture of a dog's nuts.
Yep.
Like, don't give them the respect to engage. Go right after the most. I mean, not everybody's going to want to have, like, gross things on their feed and their timeline, and I get it, but send them things that are gross and give them no respect. Don't engage their arguments, because they don't care what the answer is. The point is slander. The point is to implicate you in some kind of nefarious behavior. So don't respond as if it's reasonable. Respond as if it's completely and totally beneath you to reply to him. So that's why I tend to send dog buttholes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Super Chats.
If it works, right?
It worked fine.
Okay, from Dave Gazzulli. Oh, we already read that one. From Call Me Snow Possum, I see that you have changed your name yet again. I'm so sorry. I feel bad about that. I'm finally spelling my name right. I discount double check it. Yes, you are correct. That's the correct spelling of possum. The White Trash Panda said, Aiden, you would have been in grade school when Hulu launched. It was 2007. Fine. When I became aware of the existence of Hulu, I guess would be the better way to put it. Luis Aguilar said, Brett has been on his ad jihad era also.
Yes, I do hate ads.
What does that mean?
I am on a one-man jihad against advertisements on television. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't like it. I'm not.
You're paying the extra $3 for Hulu without ads.
I'm like, imagine paying for the ad tier.
I do pay for the no ads tier.
Imagine paying for that.
Actually, this is an interesting point, because your streaming is not doing as well for studios as they initially thought. And the biggest problem is that they need to start figuring out a way to monetize views. If you have 30 million people buying into something, 20 million of those people are watching a single program, and the other 10 are dropping in and out. You have to be able to monetize those people. Can't it just it's.
I think the obvious thing to do what Amazon did: just license other movies that you don't already have for free and offer them for money.
Product placement, like in the horrible show Citadel, there's just these hilarious product placements that are just so bad. Like it's like, look at the Grubhub bag, it's so conspicuous.
I miss the 90s product placement where there would just be an obvious Coke their whole there's a character you never hold a Coke up like to your face. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
There's a great one. I don't remember what I was watching recently where it was like, it was a show called The Glades. And this guy, for some reason, it's like Reese's Pieces, and he's like holding it in his teeth while he's watching a monitor, and the bag is just blatantly in your face. In any other show, it would have said like chocolate candy. It would have been the most generic bag ever. Yeah. But for some reason, he's just holding it like to make sure you can see the label right there. Also, if you've ever seen Independence Day, I love the product placement. There's a great Fruitopia. Fruitopia might have been gone before you even.
It's a word I know, but don't really have an association with anything.
Yeah, it was a drink that you could get, and it was like the labels. And Michael Bay movies do the same thing. The labels are just everywhere.
Oh my God.
But I love Michael Bay, so I give him a pass on that.
Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of product placement in our videos, but it's that my co-host throws our coffee at me.
There you go.
I think my favorite product placement was probably in the original Spider-Man, because it was interesting. It was unique. He's in his room and he was getting his spider powers, and he web slings a Dr. Pepper over.
Yeah, that was an
Not Tony Stark with the Burger King after he gets back to America, which is like, out of all the burger, you're a billionaire.
You're gonna go to Burger King.
You're a billionaire who comes back from.
And you're in California. I think you're not gonna go to In-N-Out.
I will say this, like, I do understand choosing between the big three, like Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's, because it's nationwide. But like,
okay,
it was kind of funny.
How about the fact that the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was sponsored by Pizza Hut, but had a Domino's pizza delivered to the pizzas in the movie?
Oh, that's baller right there. That's I gotta give him credit for that.
And that's back when Domino's was horrible too. Like Domino's sucked when I was a kid.
122 and an 8. What
I
the
gotta
hell
give
is
him big credit
122
for
and
that.
8?
God, you don't know how bad I want to order. I keep forgetting to do it, but I need to order the pizza from the beginning of E.T. I just need to know how it tastes. Because I remember being a child and being like, that sounds incredible right now.
I would say a smart thing to do. It's interesting, because Home Alone, he orders from Little Nero Pizza, and it's clearly Little Caesars.
Yeah,
but it's Little Nero Pizza. They're like, we don't want to give product placement. We're just gonna do Little Nero.
We're sitting here like talking about Call of Duty earlier. The newer Call of Duty games have been hilarious with the names of the guns, because I think like the M4 is the only one that's actually called what there's a couple that are, but it's all of these guns in the earlier Call of Duties had the correct name, and now they're like, we're just gonna not do that anymore.
It's like GoldenEye in the video game GoldenEye. They called the Walther PPK the PP7.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why they would do that. But
It'd be funny if they really start like actually like in their games, like, this gun was manufactured by this.
Exactly. It's like they've got like, instead of the AK-47, they've got like the Kastov 47.
The AK they can't do that with because it was made so long ago. But like, when it comes to like all the guns that are in these video games, they all have trademarks. They have to license if they want to use the actual name, they have to license it. The same thing goes for airsoft companies. Like, so there's airsoft companies that make get the parts from the actual manufacturer and make completely and totally like legit replications, and they're licensed. They have all of the same trademark stuff, all the same logos and stuff.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, like Bravo Company Manufacturing, I like their guns a lot.
There's like Knights Armament airsoft guns.
Yeah, they're Knights.
Nickmercs does a bunch of the H&Ks that are spot on, right? So.
I cannot find my old G&G AR-16 or whatever it was called, and it was a beautiful airsoft gun, and I miss it. It was perfectly accurate.
There's a couple of them downstairs. There's one that's a direct replica of a SIG 320, right? And and a couple that are all both M&Ps. So
and like I said, some companies do them. Like you can get like Tokyo Maru does licensed stuff.
Good company.
Yeah,
good airsoft company.
Let's do one more, and then we will move on.
Louis Aguilar said Brett has been on, I already read that one, right? Oh no, I only got through half of it. Did I read the whole thing? Also before you leave, Aiden, I wanted to say I've been binging your content since the last time you were on. Thank you. Do you want me to get the
one more?
Okay. Unknown said rage on behalf of the machine.
Yes, and also there was $2 from Marco's.
I like that.
Yeah, and now you do what they told you is now the goal of the song.
That's a good one. I like that.
All right, let's go. And we're gonna do it in the middle of the show today. Cue to the day, cringe of the day. Cue to the day, cringe of the day. What do you think?
Cringe.
Definitely.
Let's go with cringe first. All right, I got a specific cringe for the week, and it's going to be inspiring for this last segment too. 20-year-old aspiring influencer arrested after illegally jumping into alligator exhibit. So here it is. I'll play the video on this screen over here, but it's like if you watch the audience of the people who are next to them, it's really, really funny because they're like, what is this dude doing? There's no crime. He looks like an influencer too. He's got the Gen Z haircut. He kind of looks like a
the
Sour
bird's nest
Patch
on
Kid.
top.
Yeah.
Just such a stupid thing to do.
So, anything for clout these days, right? Like anything for clout, they will do whatever they have to get famous. That's not as bad as some of the cringes we've had, but I figured, a guy who's willing to risk getting eaten by an alligator just so that he can get a couple of likes on TikTok. It is what it is. All right, let's do some cue to the day. We got a couple of submissions here. Our first is from Patrick O'Connell. It says @popculture_show and @Brett Dasovic, #PCCPets. This is our 2-year-old menace, Cyrus Lay. She knows she's cute, adorable, but still hasn't figured out how to cat correctly. Best idea we ever had, adopting her from the Humane Animal Research Center as a kitten. And that is a very cute looking cat right there.
Adorable.
That is adorable. The eyes are very wide. The eyes are very wide.
That's because it's looking at you like
yes.
dinner.
And then there it is, swiping at the screen for the people who are listening right now. And then let's do one more. This is from Eve on Twitter. It's this is my cat Comet, and it's doing a puzzle. Probably better than me. I don't have the patience for puzzles. It's got the cone of shame. So I got a story. So one time I was visiting a friend's house, and his dog had just gotten the cone. Right, his dog was old. I mean, had it for years and years and years. And the dog, it's going upstairs, and it gets the cone stuck on the corner of a light socket, like between the light and the wall, and it pulls for like 10 seconds and just gives up and goes to sleep. Just stays stuck to the wall, and I'm like, let you out of there, buddy. Very sad. All right, let us move on, shall we? Phil, tell us about. Now people were telling me I was wrong about the pronouncing. I thought you were right, Aiden, that it would have been Rivers of Nile, as in a play on nihilism.
That's what I would have thought.
But
I think it's Rivers of Nihil.
So that's how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Tell us.
So, first of all, I want to point out that Between the Buried and Me, Rivers of Nihil, and another band are on tour starting next week. You should all go and support this tour. Between the Buried and Me are a great band. They're really proggy and really, really, really talented, exceptionally well-skilled musicians. So one of the guys from River of Nihil, he liked some tweets by some people that are bad people, like Adam Carolla. And,
who's the most inoffensive of people, for the most part.
And Owen Benjamin, who's a flat earther. So, I mean, that's hilarious. But people I think he likes some Tim Pool tweets.
I know that guy.
And some loser from a metal blog took issue with it. Now, metal blogs do this, right? They start up a blog and they want to go ahead and get attention. So what they do is they find some dude in a band who's done something that they can go ahead and point to and say, oh, look how bad he is. And it'll, draw a bunch of attention to their blog. And that's what happened with this band. The bass player, I mean, I don't think that he's a Nazi. And that's essentially what's the argument being made, but it's cancel culture because of the fact that he liked some tweets by people that are persona non grata. Now, anybody that follows me, you're already doomed, right? But I would recommend strongly go check out the band, because the best way to push back against these types of attacks, and they are attacks, is to show that they have no power to do anything. So go see Between the Buried and Me's tour. They're going to be on tour they're starting, I think, in like Baltimore next week on the 14th or 15th or something like that. But it's Between the BT Bam is on Twitter. It's like
the guy's name is Adam K. Briggs. That's the name of this bassist.
I forget.
And it's just, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Mumford & Sons guy, the Winston Marshall dude who got in trouble for daring to read a book that people didn't agree with. It was like Andy No's book. And they got very upset that he dared to, venture outside his own echo chamber and say, hey, look, I read this book. It's interesting. And they don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been the persona non grata in the metal community for a long time, and it fries the asses of a lot of people on the left that All That Remains continues to put out music that does well.
Because they really do. They get upset when they find out. They're like, how dare you not crawl up into a box and end yourself.
And unfortunately, I think he might have apologized, but I'm not sure. I know that he deleted his Twitter account, which probably
Well, he responded. He says, "Hey everyone, I understand why folks here might be upset by the things they've seen in certain posts about me recently. Allow me to first say that I am in no way a bigot, and I support the rights of people from all walks of life, absolutely including friends and fans in the LGBTQ+ community. I've never equated a like as an endorsement of any viewpoint. I use Twitter as a means of keeping my eyes on a vast array of ideas, especially ones separate from my own. As an artist, I believe this is an important practice. I like these posts as a way of keeping my timeline from becoming an echo chamber. I am no fan of hate-mongering celebrity figures either. People like Andrew Tate are clearly horrible. But I do constantly try to understand all sorts of views and goings-on in controversial spaces. I apologize for any pain or confusion my activity on this site may have caused anyone, and I'd like to say that it's still encouraging heartbreaking to me that so many of you have connected with my music at some point or another. I'd ask that you trust that my art is truly who I am, not my interaction on this platform. Thanks and much love. To say that likes on Twitter have caused anything short of nothing at all is patently insane.
Yeah, it's I feel bad for the guy. I mean, it does have that typical, hostage letter.
Yes, I apologize.
Yes. And kudos to the Mumford & Sons guy for retracting his apology. Yes,
you should never apologize for these kind of things because
you didn't do anything wrong.
First of all, apologizing implies that you've done something wrong, and he hasn't. First of all, and second of all, even if you apologize, there is no absolution. Like this isn't
ever.
Yeah, this isn't like this isn't like
exactly.
You could say, oh well, I sinned and then I went to my priest and I did my confession and so now I'm absolved and I'm forgiven of that sin. There is no forgiveness. Anyone at any point can bring this up in the future and this guy's going to have to do the grovel dance again. Never apologize because the grovel dance will be the only thing that they want out of you. So,
and they will want that to continue every time you do something. You are now a marked man.
Yeah.
What he should have done is actually just hit save on those tweets.
Yeah.
If that was actually what he believed, I don't even know if I buy the idea that the likes don't equal. I guess that people do say that, right? They say retweets don't equal.
Retweets, likes. I wouldn't like anything.
There we go.
Number 3.
But they used to say retweets don't equal endorsement, right?
Yeah, and which I agree with because there's a lot of times I'll retweet stuff of things that I strongly disagree with, and then I'll follow up afterwards and I'll talk about it, or I'll just be like retweets are not endorsements or whatever. But
likes,
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that he's probably got people in the band that are like, yo, don't screw us, et cetera, et cetera.
Probably.
That is the most likely situation. But I would say, I strongly recommend if you find yourself in a position where people are demanding that you make an apology, don't apologize. Don't apologize at all because they will never, ever stop punishing you. So just flip them off. No one ever comes at me for this stuff and says, oh, Phil, did you say this, blah, blah, blah. You know why? Because they know what I'm going to do. I'm going to flip them off.
The articles from now on will say, it'll say Adam K. Briggs, who's known to like alt-right tweets, has a new album coming out. You'll never escape it. It will be there forever.
Right.
It will never say Adam K. Briggs. In fact, this would be just as bad, but they'd say Adam K. Briggs, who had to apologize for liking alt-right tweets by Owen Benjamin. Like, you're not going to escape it. It's not going away.
No.
It's not going anywhere. You didn't do anything wrong. Liking tweets is not a crime. It did not cause anyone harm. And anybody that says otherwise is either lying, deluded, or an extremely bad actor. They're politically motivated. Don't do it.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's so strange to me that this does not occur to people, that they don't understand that they are trying to appeal to 5% of the population at most, and that Twitter is not representative. Just because people on Twitter are mad that you liked something does not mean any of your actual fans care. They probably don't even know you liked it.
It's not real life. It's not a real place.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Also,
and you are pandering, you are kowtowing to some of the most unreasonable people in the world. It makes no sense to keep doing it.
And if you want to have, if you want to stay politically informed and you want to keep it out of your work, I understand that completely. That's not really possible for us here. Actually, it's really funny. My Twitter is mostly just talking about movies and television.
Movies and philosophy. That's all I do.
That's all mine. Really,
politics,
get a separate account and use that as your account for that. I wouldn't recommend it because I feel like then you're if you feel I don't even go through and follow a lot of political accounts.
It poisons your mind.
The ones that I follow here because they've been here. Right? So it's they're people that I've interacted with. But if you have to feel like you have to go to a separate space just to do it, it's going to get to you down the line if it's something you care
and
directly
you're gonna feel
about.
The temptation, I feel, to jump into the outrage pool.
Yeah.
And this is part, I don't do it. I don't tweet about politics because I do not want to spend my day getting angry about something.
Exactly.
I just want to talk about things that I like. Now, unfortunately, because the way things work, you're not going to gain a whole lot of followers on Twitter that way. It's very sad.
You will have to accept that you are not going to go viral the way the other people are. But those people, that's the road they pick. That's the road they choose.
But that's why I spend my time making movies and putting out art. Like I've said, we talked about before the show started. It's the long game that you play.
Yeah.
You create things to try and give people
Even,
common language.
Even for here, I feel like I'm kind of lucky. Like, even though I don't tweet about it, I do still get to at least vocalize what I feel about a lot of these issues on this show. So I don't feel like I have to use my social media platforms as a way to get it out of my system. Though the reason a lot of other people do it is, one, they have a lot to say about it. Two, they use it as a way to market their material, right? For me, like, I would rather talk about, like, when we were talking about the stuff with Call of Duty, I'm more interested in talking about, like, what are they going to do to, what else are they going to play, rather than the politics of it. I'm more interested, like, where are they going to go for their business now, right? That's politics, but politics adjacent to entertainment. And most of the people in that space want to talk just about the politics, and they just want to fight about it. And I want to fight with people. I want to fight with people. Phil likes fighting with people on Twitter.
No, I just like exposing the ideologues because I believe that we are actually in a cultural revolution like the one that went on in China. And I believe that, like, if we fail to save the liberal philosophy that underpins the United States, the type of totalitarianism that is the type and the ubiquitousness of the totalitarianism that's coming is unprecedented in human history. America will be like China.
Also,
And you will have a social credit system. You're not going to be allowed to go to movies if you don't have a high enough social credit score. You're not going to be allowed to travel. You're not going to be allowed to do all sorts of things. And all of this has never been easier for governments because of the ubiquitousness of cell phones and stuff. The last frontier is a central bank digital currency.
Yep. We got a $20 super chat here from Wyatt Derp. Again, he says it takes 26 muscles to smile, 32 to frown, only 4 to extend a middle finger. Phil Labonte, probably.
Probably.
He thinks that's your philosophy on life.
Very close.
Look, for these things, like, I've had people that have come to me and said ridiculous things, and things that weren't even necessarily true or that they couldn't have known. Like, I had a friend who came to me and wrote me this insanely long, extremely vile letter about my supposed support of Donald Trump, to which I said, what? Like, I don't talk. How would you even know if that was true? And even then, like, you can't have a rational discussion about something like this. And no matter what I explained, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter, because even if it's your friends, if they're too far gone down the political rabbit hole, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah, they're going to stop being your friends.
And people that are writing articles for rock magazines, for any type of music publication. Did this start with Pitchfork? Did Pitchfork used to do stuff like this?
I don't know. I don't know where it started, but I know that there are a couple blogs that I don't really want to talk about because I don't want to.
Yeah. But it's like, this isn't unique to music. This goes in video games. This goes in entertainment. They have journalists who are really just activists.
Well, that's the thing. It's ubiquitous throughout a lot of the media, the journalist side of the media, because there are a lot of the same people. Like, there are people that write for metal blogs that move on, and as they get better at writing, they end up at Vox, or they end up at some other place where they're writing. And that's why you see, like, such a uniform message. Like, I've said this before, GQ and Teen Vogue have no business having similar content. There's no reason for it. But yet, you see similar stories in Teen Vogue and GQ and Better Homes and Garden. It's like, why are they running the same topics? The topics that they're covering should be different, but it's all similar topics, just like dressed up for that magazine. So it's like trans men are in GQ, and then, you know, with Teen Vogue, it's like more directly LGBT focused, but it's still the same topics that they're covering. It's just a little different perspective on all the same topics. Why would the topics be all the same? Why does the New York Times sound like, Better Homes and Gardens? Why does the New York Times sound like GQ? Why does it's like these properties should reflect their readership.
Because they're all owned by the same conglomerates.
Exactly.
Too.
Well, yeah,
Like,
and it's the same people writing, and they want to get, if you want to advance, like if you start out at a blog, the holy grail is working at the New York Times. So how do you get there?
You start out at MovieWeb. And you go from there because they're all owned by the same 4 or 5 conglomerates of companies, all under the same corporate umbrella.
Well, and those guys are all on the chopping block now because all those articles are going to be written by ChatGPT by next year.
Yeah.
Like all the gateway, the entry level, writing for Screen Rant or whatever, like that's gone. Those AI has been writing those articles for years already. Everyone could just tell. Now it's going to be all of them.
Yep. It's also like his examples are like what the examples were so Adam Carolla.
Yeah.
Adam Carolla. Like really?
It was Adam Carolla. There was one Andrew Tate one, but it wasn't even an offensive Andrew Tate one. It was like him. I'm gonna see if I can find the exact. Yeah. Here we go. Andrew Tate said, "Those who hoard money never enjoy life. Savers live boring lives. You only live once." And I'm like, what exactly? What is the like? I have been vocally critical of Andrew Tate. But I see no problem with that statement. Like, don't hoard your money. Isn't that like what the left is all about?
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. I want to do this one last one real quick. Let's talk about these 2 influencers, right? Did you know that there are influencers these days who are faking pancreatic cancer? Multiple influencers.
I don't even know.
Isn't that terrifying?
How to deal with that.
Isn't that terrifying?
Wow.
So the first one is a fitness influencer. Her name is Mian Bao Bao. She's Taiwanese, right? And the other one is Madison Russo, who is a TikToker, and both of them faked pancreatic cancer.
Of all the cancers,
cancers to fake, they fake pancreatic cancer.
It's so messed up.
Russo raised $37,000 in a GoFundMe, and she has since been arrested and released on $10,000 bond. She pled not guilty to theft.
Oh, we got a 20.
And probably paid the bail with the money.
With the money, yeah. Grofty says the brainwashing is real. Recognize it when it's present. And Buck. He likes to hit us with the buck. So thank you. Look, $37,000. It is a testament to the narcissism of our culture these days. It's a testament to the extreme desire people have to be special and to feel love and affection from other people. Not even real people, but people on the internet. But the lady who got caught from Taiwan issued an apology. She says, "To all my family, friends, fans, and netizens who have cared about me and supported me and cheered me on, I want to apologize." It was a translation that was done to that. Basically, she would take stock photos on the internet of things in hospitals, and they caught the other girl because she wouldn't let people come to the hospital with her. And that is absolutely bonkers. Like, I don't even know what to make of that other than it's a sign of the way our culture is going, that there's no shame felt.
I would say there's always been someone kind of scamming people with like fake illnesses, but I think what makes it so easy to do now is you could just go online, set up a GoFundMe, and like, oh, I've got pancreatic cancer, give money to me. That's very different than what it was before. It's like you can scam that many people and get that quickly, rich from it.
Before it was, sitting outside a church and holding a sign that said that you had some sort of illness and, collecting money from people on your day off. Now it's just gone on. It's on steroids.
Unbelievable. I don't even know if I want to spend a bunch of time on it. I just thought everyone should know. Like, I've been doing a segment where we got it's called influencers in the wild because they're just nuts. There's just so many people that are doing so much because clout has become a drug. And so the dopamine hit from all the likes, and it actually kind of comes up in the movie. When you show the follower count go up, people get addicted to that. They get addicted to knowing that they've got a certain amount of clout, and people will do bad, very, very wrong things to reach it.
Yeah, I would say this story is actually, I would say, very important because there are a lot of GoFundMes or Gifts and Goes out there for causes, and they'll just get shared on whatever platform, and I think it does make people think. I would just say to people, research Research
Yeah.
it. Make
It's
sure
your
that
own-
you're not
it's your
getting
responsibility.
scammed. Make sure that you're not
Well,
getting scammed.
and the
Fool
other-
and his money are easily part
Yeah,
of it.
The
Yes.
other thing about it is like TikTok and Instagram Reels, they encourage this stuff, especially TikTok. Because I can say this, as somebody with a ton of experience. Somebody posts videos about, sob stories or drama or whatever, and it always gets millions and millions of views. Yep. I have 1.2 million followers on TikTok, and my videos get like 25,000 views now because I talk about like history and education and religion and things people ask me about, folklore. But somebody who goes and lies about something or does drama content or just the little TikTok dances or whatever, those people are still getting millions of views. It's because TikTok is deliberately not showing educational content.
Yeah,
They're showing the garbage that drives.
You got to go to
views.
China to get the TikTok that shows you educational
Yes, that
content.
is
Literally.
All right. Let's go to Super Chats.
All right.
Let's do this.
Okay. We have from DD Megadoodoo 97. Did you guys ever watch MCX, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge,
Yes.
back when Spike TV used to be a thing?
Did you watch that?
I do remember Spike. I don't remember that
I remember
show,
Spike
though.
TV, but I don't remember that show. No.
I remember Deadliest Warrior and
I remember Mansers.
1,000 Ways to Die.
I had a lot of college
Mansers?
roommates who watched Mansers.
Mansers was good.
I mean, it really did. Like, they marketed themselves as just a network where basically you personified testosterone and had it right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
I know
Yeah.
WWE went to Spike at one point.
Which is
El
not
Rey-
surprising.
Is El Rey TV still a thing? That was based
know.
off of the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. They're going to the town of
Yeah.
El Rey, but they created a whole network
I think
called
it's still a
El
network,
Rey
'cause
TV.
Isn't that,
yeah.
what's his name, invested in that?
Yeah, the
right?
Robert
Robert
Rodriguez, I
Rodriguez,
think, did that, yeah.
Yep. All right, Plaz?
Plaz said, shout out to Peacock for effing ruining Limetown.
I don't know what. I
don't either.
I stand Peacock. I think it's the most underrated of the streaming services. I actually like it quite a bit. So
Great during Halloween.
Yeah.
If you want to watch any of the monster classics, oh, it's wonderful. Go to Peacock during Halloween.
I'm
Yeah,
angry
absolutely.
because they took The Office off of Netflix.
it's
yeah.
got Republic of Doyle, which is one of my favorites. It's an Alan Hocko show that took place in St. John's, Newfoundland, in Canada, and it's a very great, it's quaint on location filmmaking, and it's fantastic. It's about a private detective.
All right. Cleggy said, remember when Battlefield got backlash for featuring a female lead with a claw arm in a World War II era game?
Yeah, that was.
Yep.
Yep.
More importantly, boys.
I remember that.
All right, we have Wrath, who said, not many people know this, but portions of the Sistine Chapel were censored. This was a long time ago, but
true.
people painted clothes over nudity.
That's true. That's true. That's
didn't
true.
know that.
And that's why, Puritanism is never a good thing in art.
Yeah.
That did happen. That's very unfortunate.
The video we put out today, my channel,
Which isn't out yet. You should wait to go watch it. And
yes, if you can wait 20
it is
minutes
out.
to go watch my channel's video. But my point was we have an entire segment on it on iconoclasm and sort of, how these Reformation movements can often get out of hand and start destroying important and beautiful things.
All right, G. Santoya.
Said,
Santoyo.
yep. Next time I see Blazing Saddles, it may only be 15 minutes long. I mean, the very first scene of Blazing Saddles.
That's good. I like
Gone. Gotta go.
Gotta go.
It's all
Yeah,
gotta go.
absolutely.
The very first scene that does not involve singing, I think.
All right.
Actually, wait, no, that scene involved a lot of that movie involves singing. Now that I
Gotta
think about
go
it.
watch Blazing Saddles.
But like, they use the gamer word within seconds.
Oh yeah, right away.
Red Chief 000
Okay. Oh boy, I got to scroll down to that
says
one.
Andor is the
yep,
perfect of green screen versus location. You could feel the rain in one of the episodes.
Well, that's the thing about Andor is it's not a green screen.
Yeah.
The new Star Wars stuff, a lot of people, I see what you're saying here, but the new Star Wars stuff is using different technology. They've got basically, it's a real background. It might be CGI generated, but it is a real screen with a real background on it that looks like it's like a stage for a
That's
play.
right, yeah.
Yeah, and what's better about that is that it's not digitally adding everything in, and you do still get the atmosphere that you're in, and it looks a lot better than a green screen.
Yeah, the Batman also did a lot of that too.
Yeah.
With the LEDs.
I think it's a really good middle ground for how difficult it would be to film a lot of this stuff on location. But because with something like Star Wars, where you're talking about every planet has a different atmosphere, it makes sense to do that in studio. But I could, I hope it doesn't get overused on stuff that doesn't need it. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood would not have needed that.
Yeah, at least there's a happy medium with building an elaborate sets, like and then the edges where
Yes,
you have
exactly.
you fill it in and everything. That's actually very much
And that's
a
what they-
throwback to classic Hollywood.
That's what they've been doing a lot of is they've got the set in the back. It's very similar to those early like Star Wars where you had everything was painted.
Yes, exactly.
Potatoes for Seamus says, Baba Booey, Brett owes me a hat, Baba Booey. Yes. Thank you, Seamus. Rhaegar Targaryen says, I remember Paul Bois from Michael Knowles' show back in the day with the basket of deplorables. His base takes left me speechless, which reminds me of Speechless, controlling words, controlling minds.
Oh, thank you for that shout out. I appreciate that.
God,
Thank
no
you for
tax,
following.
good tax.
Yep.
Next.
He says, my wife writes it all as, well, you just happen to see the worst of the worst. It's not representative samples of what's actually going on. Yeah, that's a very common take on all that stuff. That always seems to be the argument that comes up. Braymont says, I want every product placement to be Wayne's World product placement.
Oh,
yes.
Genius.
It sucks, and it cuts.
Yeah.
It certainly does suck.
No, that was a genius joke. I love that in Wayne's World.
Newbrin, little, yellow, different.
That was I like that one.
It's like, people sometimes just do things now because they get paid. And that's just really sad. I started buying Reebok shoes again because of that movie. Perturbed Alpaca says, I'll be skipping that tour. I think he's talking about the band. And
probably,
James Orenthal Wen says, May's cool, but the Boys week was great.
Glad you guys liked Boys Cast.
Yes, we love Mary, but it has been an amazing week.
It's been fun.
All right, let's get going. So, my friend, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Let everyone know where they can find you and where they can find the movie.
Yes, you can watch Exemplum on Tubi for free, or you can watch it on Vimeo on demand, Google Play, or YouTube Movies. You can also follow me on Twitter at ProlandFilms or on Instagram at ProlandFilms.
Excellent. And again, I have to give that movie the biggest shout out because that was, out of all the movies that have been premiered here, that people have showed here, I really enjoyed that one a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot.
All right. Aiden, my friend.
All right, I am Aiden Mattis. This is unfortunately my last day here for a while, but I have had a wonderful time. Thank you, Brett and Phil, so much for welcoming me into the studio and making me part of the team. I have really enjoyed this time. And if you want to check out what I do, I am the host of The Lore Lodge right here on YouTube. We're a channel that talks about history, folklore, religion, conspiracy theories, all of that. And we have a brand new video on Tartaria out today, right now. So if you need something to watch now, go check that out. And you can find me at the Aiden Mattis, basically everywhere.
Perfect. Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twitter. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains, available on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, all the stuff.
All those platforms.
All those places.
Thank you, guys. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. Remember, Pop Culture Crisis is here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. If you would like to listen to this podcast rather than watch, we are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. And if you'd like to follow the show on social media, we are on Twitter at PopCulture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, and on Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. We will be back with another episode on Monday. We'll see you then, guys. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.